packs, that there is no update to be given, so it's just to assure you that hasn't been missed. I'm also going to move confidential business to after item 12 on the agenda, after correspondence, so we can deal with that council business at that point prior to taking the motions. And Councillor Tommy Maguire, you want in here?
Please, Chair, with your indulgence there, just before we get into the substantive meeting there, I just want to make a request for acknowledgement from the council to the first housing in Enniskillen, who received an award of the Housing Team of the Year for 2021. It was issued from the CIH, the Chartered Institute of Housing. So it'd be remiss of us then as a council not to offer our congratulations. Possibly through yourself, Chair, you could send them a letter of congratulations on the council.
Absolutely. That's not a problem. We'll do that. Now the volume's very poor from you, Councillor Maguire, but we'll catch up with that. Certainly happy to do that and send a letter of congratulations. Councillor Swift.
Garamagat Kahirluk, just and as we are on congratulations, I would also like to say a massive congratulations and very well done to the Fermanagh ladies who were named in the 2020 TG Cahir Junior Team of the Championship, which is a very excellent, totally excellent marked achievement for sure. And the famous 5 girls are Shauna Murphy from Enniskillen, Sarah McCarville, Adram C, Roisin O'Reilly, Canali Burrows, Ashley Maguire, Devonish Garrison, and Emer Smith from my very own Darragonley Harps. So I just want to say very well done to all the girls. And it is unfortunate, if we weren't still in the COVID restriction times, we would most definitely be hosting a very appropriate council reception, party and celebration to mark this wonderful achievement by the girls. So until that time comes around, and we'll certainly keep that in place, I ask you, please, Chair, on behalf of the council, to send a letter to the respective Gaelic clubs first, and thereafter Fermanagh County GAA ladies, and well done to them all again. Guramagat.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that for you, Councillor Swift. Certainly, that's a great achievement there. Councillor Garrity, you're next.
Thank you, Chair Dana. And just if you needed a seconder for Bernice's, I would happily second it for those letters of congratulations, and want to be held with all those remarks she made. And congratulations to the girls on such wonderful year and achievement that they've had. And also just to support what Tommy said as well. And I felt I had to say it because I might have to declare an interest, because a former councillor, Councillor Rogers, my sister, worked for First Housing. So well done to them as well. So
can I ask Councillor Garrity, can you second that Tommy's proposal there, please?
Certainly can. Thank you, Chair.
That's very much, that deals with that business, and thank you for those remarks too, Councillor Garrity. Councillor Feely. Councillor Feely, is this about AOB? Your request for AOB?
No, I was just going to come in the second, Bernice, there, but Mary has already done it. I just want to be associated with them words too, because my own club woman, Ashley Maguire, was one of them, and Emer Smith as well from Darragonley, my neighbour. Just want to be associated with that as well, and well done to all the girls. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, members. Now, moving to the agenda to apologies first, we're going to the group leaders. So, Councillor McInduff for Sinn Féin, do you have any apologies, please?
No apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warrington, UUP.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson, DUP.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Garrity from the SDLP.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies. Just Councillor Gannon's run a wee bit late to come to the meeting, but he will be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the smaller parties and independents, do we have any apologies, please? That's great. Thank you. That's a really good attendance. Thank you, members. I'm moving to paper A to confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 2nd of February. We'll go through this first for accuracy. Page 1, page 2. Is that Councillor McCloughery? Councillor McCloughery? You're on mute, Councillor McCloughery.
Sorry, Chair, I'm going to propose the minutes when we get to the end of them.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Right, Councillor, so we go back page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Councillor Thompson, please. Thank you.
Just going to second the minutes, Madam Chair.
Okay, members, we'll get to that point. Thank you. Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, 11, 12, 13, page 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19. Thank you, members. And now to Councillor McLaughlin, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through yourself, I'd like to propose the minutes, but I'd also like some clarity. Does something need to be noted for 17.6, the fact that that motion has been called in, or does that not be reflected in these minutes?
We'll deal with that in matters arising, Councillor McLaughlin. Thank you. And
Okay,
you're proposing that, and Councillor Thompson, are you happy to second?
Happy to second, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Then moving to all agreed on that? Thank you, members. And if Councillor Feely, you could take your hand down, please. Thanks. Now, paper B, to confirm and sign the minutes of the special council meeting Thursday, 18th of February for accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, page 10, 11, 12 and 13. Do I have a proposer, please?
Proposed,
Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Swift, and seconded Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair.
And all agreed? Okay, I'm not hearing any dissent. Thank you, members. Then item, if we remove the hands again, please, members. Councillor Clark, did you want in on something separate?
No, sorry, Chair. I just was going to second, but
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, moving to item 4, declarations of interest. Have we any among the councillors there? No, no indications of declarations of interest. Thank you. Moving back on item 5 to matters arising from the council meeting dated the 2nd of February.
Sorry, Chair.
Beg your pardon, Councillor McLaughlin, yes?
Yeah, the matters of interest. Sorry, I've just dropped my piece of paper and my computer's going slow. The motion about the further education, will there be I'm not sure whether I have to declare an interest in that until I actually hear the motion, because it's not quite clear as to who it applies to. But once I've heard that motion, can I come back in and declare an interest then?
Yes, yeah, you can do it at that point. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The motion on higher and further education, please.
Higher education, further education. You're declaring a motion, an interest on that. Thank you. Okay, and going now to matters arising from the council meeting, 2nd of February. So page 1, page 2, page 3. We have an item at item 5.1 in your pack. Members will have read the will have received their letters, their papers, and this is for noting letter from the Minister of Health. Councillor Maguire, you want to speak on this?
It's on a slightly separate issue, Chair, if you would allow me. It's come to my attention that there is a possibility that the Drumclane nursing home is to close. And given that it was reopened to assist the overloading of the hospital, and the fact that the meetings with the trust, I think there was 2, has been moved forward, I wonder, would it be opportune to request an urgent meeting with them, or failing that, if we could get a letter of explanation from them as to what their plans are for the Drumclane nursing home. Obviously, it's of grave concern to both patients and staff, and I think we deserve some clarification on the matter. If I could propose that, Chair, please.
Okay, do you have a seconder for that, please?
I'm prepared to second that.
Is that Councillor Coffey? Are you indicating to second it?
Yeah, I was happy to second.
Okay, so that is seconded, but we can certainly do that. Thank you for that proposal, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Coffey, were you coming in on item 6.1 in the?
I was in relation to this. There was 2 things I wanted to say. First of all, I think that the correspondence confirms that unfortunately the impact of us not taking a strong position in support of an adequate pay offer from the department. I note the reference in the final lines on the correspondence from the department, so I'll leave it out there. But in relation to the issue in the Drumclay, I would be very concerned if that was the case. I had written, just to make other members aware, in October of last year, I was writing around the future of Drumclay, and I was assured by trust representatives at that time that they would retain the provision in the facility, but the ownership obviously was transferring. So I would certainly be supportive of clarification if there is any further developments. And it is quite concerning because this was one of the main commitments entered into as a part of the Pathfinder process, which I wouldn't have much confidence in. But one of the few things that have come forward as making an immediate improvement has been the utilization of additional space and the creation of additional space to free up capacity, in particular in Drumclay. Now, I know there have been issues there, but if there are any moves since I have that clarification from the trust, I think we all need to know about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the Chief Executive has indicated that we will be writing to establish the position on that and report back to members. And just within the chat function here, Councillor Campbell has indicated an interest, declared an interest in item 13.3. He doesn't need to leave the meeting, but will not contribute to the debate. So that is noted for you, Councillor Campbell. Thank you. Can I ask other members who aren't speaking to take their hands down at this point, please? Councillor Paul Blake, I think you're next.
Yeah, it was only just to support what Councillor Maguire already said regarding Drumclay Nursing Home, because I was fortunate enough there before the pandemic to bring a group of students into it and to see the wonderful work that was going on in there. And it would be a shame to lose such a very good nursing home that provides such wonderful care to the people that are in there. So support Councillor Maguire and Councillor O'Coffey in that.
Absolutely, thank you. That's noted too. So moving on, members, to matters arising, page 4. If the two councillors could just, Councillor Maguire, if you want to take your hand down so we can see who's coming in next to speak. Thank you. Page 5. There's an item there, correspondence from DFC. Members have that in their papers. Again, if that is that for noting. Could I have a proposer to note, please? Councillor Thornton?
Quite happy to propose noting.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Robinson, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, members. So moving to page 6, page 7, we have correspondence there from the Department of Health on hospice care. Again, that is for noting. Councillor Deehan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And now I find the response from the Minister a little disappointing. Because my strong belief, particularly as a practicing medical doctor, that hospice care, end-of-life care should be part of the NHS provision and should be fully funded. The Minister has in his letter outlined the funding arrangements and also details of the service level agreements that are in place with various voluntary and charitable organisations. But as the substance of the motion and the subsequent debate highlighted, there is a strong belief that the Department for Health should secure the future of palliative care services by putting in full funding for these essential services. The Minister makes reference closure of the children's hospice at Horizon West, and that is something which is regrettable. They have relocated the funding, but I still feel that there is a significant shortfall of the funding, and hence hospice care always has to look to the charitable sector for supplementation of their income and running costs. Palliative care services are expensive to run, and they are absolutely essential for patients and their families. So I would express regret at that approach, and I would propose that we would write back to the Minister saying we are disappointed with his response, and if we could ask him to look again at the funding of these vital services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dehan. And Councillor Coffey, are you coming in to second that, or have you
I am
different
indeed.
comment?
I just wanted to add my voice. I'm very happy to second that. I entirely concur with the previous comments. It is, I think, essential that we see hospice care taken into the NHS provision and run as such, and then it will not be dependent on charities. This is something we all pay our taxes for. And people have made a lifetime of contributions, basically through national insurance, taxation, and so on. And then when it comes to the end of their lives and the need for palliative care, they're dependent on charities. This is a scandal, and I would certainly be happy to support Councillor Dehan's proposal. And if I could only ask that it would have a specific emphasis on the possibility of this coming back in-house, as she has mentioned herself. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. And all agreed on that letter that's going forward, going back to ask for more funding. All agreed. Thank you, members. Can I just take you back to item 5.1 to have a proposer and a seconder for noting the thank you payment to the NHS staff? Councillor Thompson and Councillor Robinson, thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. That's great. Now moving on, we are on page Matters Arising, page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, it was back on page 8 and also on page 9. The first point, I wasn't entirely happy. I didn't raise it at previous around the wording in the top of page 9, where
Councillor, this, just to remind you, this has been adopted for
I
accuracy.
understand. I'm just raising it and just express my concern that these sort of personalised comments are being reported in the minutes about the intent of the proposer and seconder for publicity and so on. I think that's rather inappropriate. But anyway, look, page 8. I wanted my main point was that we have taken now to rescind a decision. Sorry, we've taken a decision to rescind a previous vote on a proposal in relation to fracking and mining, and I'm wondering why it is that we had just over only a few days ago we had a number of consultants come in on behalf of the Department of Economy in relation to fracking, and that meeting was held behind closed doors. So I want to know why it was after this was passed that we then proceeded to conduct a closed meeting with consultants around the very issue of fracking. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll just pass to our Chief Executive here for a comment.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. The procedures of the Council relate to our Council meetings, committee meetings, and as was reported at the when this matter was being discussed previously, the Council's procedures remain, so that anything that should be dealt with in confidential business at our meetings is done so, and that's for legislative reasons. I think the meeting that Councillor O'Coffey's referencing is an informal meeting, so all such informal meetings would be held with the Council. They're not open to the public. If members wish to have public meetings, they would then be framed through the normal democratic services requirements, Chair, and they would either be a special Council meeting or form part of a Council committee. And that was not the case for the meeting last week.
Thank you for that, Alison. Councillor McAleer, is this on page 8 or page 9?
Yeah, well, the first point is in relation to page 9, and again, the statement that Councillor O'Coffey's just referred to, the fact that people were taking exception and members were taking exception to councillors lobbying, and I think if you're taking exception to councillors actually lobbying on various issues, you maybe fail to comprehend the actual task at hand or the job at hand that councillors are elected to do, and the fact that myself and a number of other councillors are lobbying on behalf of our constituents. It's nothing that we need to apologise or express any regret for. I further to Councillor Coffey's comment in relation to the outcome of that rescinding motion and the meeting last week. I'd like to know, it seemed to be a miscommunication, whether it was from the council end, from the department end, from the consultants themselves, that what seemingly was advertised or was sent out as an informal meeting was in fact deemed to be or taken up by the consultants and the department as the council's opportunity to respond to this £75,000 review of an industry that nobody here wants or welcomes. I'm just wondering, in relation to the points raised by Councillor Coffey, will minutes be available of that meeting? Was it recorded? Will it be available for public access? And I know that we have requested a follow-up meeting or a secondary meeting. Will it also be classed as an informal meeting, or will there be public access to that? Because given the sensitivities around this and the importance of this issue, I would like to think that it would be something that it would be made publicly available and would be acceptable, would be appropriate to allow public and press coverage of. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just pass you back to the Chief Executive for the details of that meeting, the informal meeting. Thank you.
Yes, Chair, just to confirm, as an informal meeting, there are not, I'm sure members will have kept their own notes, but there's certainly not minutes of informal meetings kept, nor would there be an audio or any other recording made by Democratic Services. The only meetings which would be minuted would be our normal council and committee and working group meetings, and that was an informal meeting, so did not fall within those. In terms of the follow-up event, certainly my understanding from the meeting is that the consultants had undertaken to provide a further opportunity for members to engage. Certainly we could ask them if it is their intention for that to be conducted publicly, Chair. They themselves, I'm sure, will probably have done a note of the meeting, and if that is the case, we can ask for that. But we would certainly need to follow up on that basis.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Alison. Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, I just want to reflect, Chair, that it is also the feeling of the Sinn Féin group that the status of that particular meeting is now confusing. That we're uncertain about the status of that meeting. I think our members who attended that meeting attended it on the basis that it was indeed an informal meeting, and would not want the consultants or the department to deem that to be an official consultation exercise. So just to make that clear, that there's a strong feeling within our group along the lines of what has been expressed by Councillor Coffey and Councillor McAleer.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Coffey. I'm not letting you back in because we're going through now into page 10, page 11, page 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So, Chief Executive, yes.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to advise members, as notified on the 12th of February, just in relation to item 17.6, page 14, that a valid call-in has been lodged under section 41(1)(b) of the Local Government Act in relation to this decision. As members will be aware, this requires a legal opinion. This has been sought, Council has been instructed, and I would expect that we would have that for consideration at the April Council meeting. But until then, Chair, and until the Council determines its position in relation to the call-in, the current policy position remains in place.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thanks, Alison. So back over to page 17, page 18 and page 19. Thank you, members.
Chair.
Sorry, Councillor McElduff.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Just on those pages from 14 right through on the bilingual signage. Again, can I just record that our group, the Sinn Féin group, believes the call-in to be regressive, and the will of the council has been expressed.
Councillor, there will be an opportunity in the April meeting. There will be an opportunity to address that when we have a response back, when we have clarification on that call-in, on the validity of the call-in. So can we leave it like that? Thank you very much, Councillor McElduff.
One concluding sentence is that we believe that language rights delayed are language rights denied. So we won't be talking about that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Moving now to the matters arising for the special council meeting Thursday, the 18th of February. Councillor McElduff, can you remove your hand, please? Thank you. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, 5, 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12 and page 13. No matters arising. So item 7 on the agenda to confirm the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 27th of January, and I'll go to the Chair of the Planning Committee, Councillor Irvine, to propose those. So for accuracy, page 1. Oh, Councillor McAleer.
Sorry, Chair, it was just in relation to the minutes of the previous meeting, the special.
We've moved on at this point.
And with respect, I think I did have my hand up prior to us moving on, but if you're judging, that's all right if you want to move on.
No, I'm moving on. I didn't see your hand. No, I'm moving on at this point. We're moving on to the Planning Committee. Thank you. So page 1, page 2, 3, page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, page 10 and page 11. Could I have a proposer from Councillor Irvine?
Yes, Chair, happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McAleer, do you want to second these?
Sorry, Chair, it was just, and I suppose I had a query in relation to the bottom of page 10, and it's a comment. I suppose it reflects maybe uncertainty in terms of council responsibilities in terms of battery energy storage systems, and the confusion or the lack of direction between the department and the council.
This is for accuracy.
Yeah, again, I suppose this is the confusion that councillors don't really
and
have.
I'm being informed that we have advised on this previously, and the same information stands. So I'm moving on to get a seconder on these minutes for accuracy, please. Is that from you, Councillor Thompson?
Obviously, the second the minutes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on then to the Environmental Services Committee. I'll be looking to Councillor McPhillips therefore to propose these here. We'll go through for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, page 7, 8, page 9, 10, page 11. Councillor McAleer.
Yes, Chair, in relation just to page 10, but I suppose this is accuracy as opposed to matters
accuracy.
arising.
Yes, we're looking for accuracy. It can be raised tomorrow night when the matters are arising. Thank you. Page 11, page 12, 13, 14. Councillor McPhillips, are you happy to propose?
Yeah, propose, Chair.
And seconder, please. Councillor Curry, thank you. Moving to the Regeneration and Community Committee meeting held on the 9th of February, and I'll be asking the Chair, Councillor Maguire, therefore, to propose them. For accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, page 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, 14, page 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and page 20. Councillor Maguire, are you happy with those?
I go Kenta Carly Molum. I propose the minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly? Are you happy to second?
Chair? Yes, thank you.
Members all agreed? Thank you. And item 10 on the agenda, the minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting, and I'll be asking Councillor McCann to propose these. This meeting took place on the 10th of February, paper F. For accuracy, page 1, 2, page 3, 4, 5, page 6, 7, 8, 9, page 10, 11 and 12. Councillor McCann, you happy with those?
Yes, happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Is that Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you for that, Anne-Marie. Thank you. And moving to the minutes, the Planning Committee held the 17th of February, paper G. Again, I'll be asking Councillor Irvine to propose those. That's paper G, page 1, 2, 3, page 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and page 16. Councillor.
Yes, happy to propose.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer.
Yes, Chair. I want to just raise a query on this because it's something that I believe I'd proposed previously in the council meeting or possibly in one of the committees, and as far as I recall, it received full support. And I've contacted one of the directors in relation to this. It's point number 5 on page 14, and it's to do with the PDR around telecommunications. And I was just wondering if we had received any further training, or if the members of the committee had received any further training or further information from the department as had been advised at the time. And if we hadn't done, or if members hadn't done, I had requested, I suppose, that all council members would be involved in that training. If not, I would be proposing that we actually contact the department to, I suppose, further or get that training organised, because I believe it was discussed at a committee meeting last October, late October, early November. But obviously nothing has been done in relation to it so far, and I know there are
no, Councillor, this isn't a matter arising. Could I ask you to put that in writing to the director, or we can deal with it at RNC?
I have done, Chair. So I suppose I was just.
Can you raise it at RNC then? Quite happy to. I'm sure the director will take it there at the RNC meeting.
That's fine. If that's the appropriate place, that's fine, Chair.
Thank you for that. Now, Councillor Coyle. Are you seconding?
Councillor Irvine's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coyle. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. It's just a procedural thing here. Now that the committees have been allocated authority to make decisions on their own, I'm wondering why it is that we check for accuracy the minutes for each of the committees at the full council meeting, because it would make more sense, I would have thought, that we check it for accuracy before we then go for matters arising within each of the subsequent committee meetings the next month, if you understand. I'm just wondering if maybe there could be some direction on that. It's not a major issue, but it just I feel it's rather out of place that we're considering all these things at this point and then not discuss them.
Okay, I'll pass over to our Chief Executive for you. Thank you, Alison.
Chair, it is appropriate, even in the context of our own standing orders for the Council to formally check and approve the accuracy of minutes, and that would also apply if the powers are delegated, which would have always been the case in relation to planning. And it's equally appropriate then that the detail of the matters arising can take place at the respective committees.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Alison. Now moving on to item 12 on the agenda is correspondence. We have received no correspondence, so at this point we'll also.
Sorry. I think I have my hand up there.
Sorry, Councillor Green, I don't see a hand up there.
All right, well, it's showing us up here. But anyway, if you just let me in on that previous point from the Chief Executive, given that matters arising, am I right in that planning committee deals with matters arising from the planning committee?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, surely that should be done at full council, where all the councillors has an opportunity to raise matters arising. Because if it's done at the planning committee, obviously there's only 13 councillors can raise issues on the planning committee.
Okay, I'll pass you back over to the Chief Executive there, just to outline that.
No, Chair, it wouldn't be appropriate. The matters arising would be raised by the decision makers. So in relation to the Planning Committee, that would be the 13 members of the Planning Committee. If there are allied points or points, as we've advised previously, that members would wish to raise linked to planning, they could either do so either through the relevant directors or through their members on the Planning Committee. In the context of the permitted development rights and the wider point about 5G and 4G, I know this is something that has also been discussed, for example, at the Broadband Working Group, so it is quite routine for those matters to come through regeneration and community. But no, it wouldn't be appropriate for matters arising from planning to be dealt with by members who are not decision makers and not fully aware in all cases of the matters before the decision makers at any given time.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Coffey, are you wanting back in on this?
Yeah, I am on that very issue. I think that Councillor Green raises a very pertinent question, really. And I note that the response from the Chief Executive said that their colleagues can raise issues at the full council meeting, but those of us who don't have any colleagues and are independents or so on, we have no public forum at which we can raise concerns in relation to matters arising of a committee of this council. And I think that that is quite a concerning outcome, because previous to all these minutes being considered, they would have been considered at the full council meeting in all cases, and everyone has a right to go to that. So that is an issue of some concern. And I think actually I have to say that I've noticed certain contributions from Councillor McAleer that he has had issues that he wished to speak upon arising from minutes of the planning committee, but because he does not sit on the planning committee, he does not have any colleagues sitting on the planning committee, and it is no longer considered by the full council. There is no public body at which he can raise as a councillor with his democratic mandate concerns in relation to planning matters arising.
Okay, your comments are noted there. So at this point, I'm going to move on. Councillor Podrigan-Kelly, have you a comment to make there?
Yes, thanks, Deanna. No, I just wanted to point out that Councillor McAleer had an opportunity to go on the Plan Committee and didn't go on it.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're moving on now to the minutes of the.
Sorry, Chair, I think
Councillor McAleer, you've been in on this before, and you've been advised to take that through to RNC, so the matter can be dealt with there.
Just specifically in relation to this point, the fact that the planning meeting is on at 2 o'clock in the day as well, as someone who works, it's not convenient even for me to go to it. As much as I appreciate the sniping from my mid-throne colleague there, it's not appropriate it's not available for me to go as someone who works.
Okay, we're moving on. Thank you. That is noted, and I'm not taking any more comments on this at the moment. We're moving on now to the confidential. We're going into committee now to deal with the confidential minutes. So could I please have a proposer to go into confidential business? Is that Councillor Thompson? Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
All
agreed. Okay, thank you. So thank you for that. Thank you, members, and to those joining us remotely. We're moving now to item 13. I just passed to the Chief Executive for a summary of confidential minutes there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to advise that while in committee, members confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 2nd of February, and there were no matters arising from that meeting, and also confirmed the confidential meetings of the Planning Committee held on the 27th of January, the confidential minutes of Environmental Services Committee held on the 3rd of February, the confidential minutes of the Regeneration and Community Committee held on the 9th of February, and the confidential minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting held on the 10th of February, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Could I please have a proposer and seconder for the minutes, or for the report? Is that Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and Councillor Thompson? Thank you, members. And if the hands could be removed there, just so we have all hands down. Thank you. Moving now to motions item 13 on the agenda. The proposers of the motions, just to outline, have 5 minutes to speak. The seconder has 3 minutes. So I'm moving first of all to a motion proposed by Councillor Warrington, seconded by Councillor Baird, and we'll allow you to read out your motion first of all, and from after that you have 5 minutes to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council welcome the Department of Infrastructure's commitments to achieve regional balance in infrastructure investment, notes the importance of strategic and regional connectivity to the southwest of Northern Ireland, and calls on DFI to commence feasibility and design work to the A4 from Ballygawley to Enniskillen, and to begin discussions immediately with the Irish Government and County Councils of Sligo, Cavan and Leitrim to seek a cross-border agreement to also dual the A4 from Enniskillen to join with a new N16 dual carriageway to Sligo. The dualling and upgrading of the A4 N16 corridor from Ballygawley to Enniskillen and onwards to Sligo would act as a single biggest driver of economic development and regeneration within County Fermanagh for a generation, helping to create jobs, attract inward investment, enhance the district's tourism industry potential, and improve road safety and strengthen the connectivity of the South West Acute Hospital with other parts of Northern Ireland and counties Sligo, Leitrim, Cavan and Donegal. This motion proposes that the Council writes to the Minister for Infrastructure, Nicola Mallon, to reiterate its call for the DFI to deliver the Enniskillen bypass and asks that DFI ensure that this bypass will be future-proofed to ensure it meets the technical demands and specifications of connecting it to the new A4 dual carriageway and onwards towards a dualling proposition within a new N16.
Okay, thank you.
I'll now start my notes, Chair.
Okay.
We in the Ulster Unionist Party recognise the importance of rebalancing of infrastructure investment across Northern Ireland, and we firmly believe that the dualling of the A4 N16 corridor from Ballygawley to Enniskillen and then to Sligo will act as the single biggest driver for economic development for the southwest of Northern Ireland and the west of Ireland. Currently, County Fermanagh is the only county in Northern Ireland that does not have a single stretch of motorway or a single stretch of dual carriageway. Our current road infrastructure can make long and at times unreliable journey times, which ultimately have an impact on business competitiveness and makes the Fermanagh and the border areas a less attractive location for both Indigenous growth and foreign direct investment. For context, the Department for Infrastructure notes that the road network plays a vital role in promoting economic growth in Northern Ireland, where 99% of freight and people movements are by road. The importance of a good road infrastructure is further highlighted in the 2015 Confederation of British Industry Survey, which stated that 94% of businesses view the quality infrastructure as a decisive factor when planning future investment. We need a modern, fit-for-purpose dual carriage network that can promote Indigenous investment and attract investment towards our county. Whilst we cannot change the geography of Northern Ireland, we can create the right conditions to ensure existing businesses remain in the southwest and new businesses are attracted to come. A dual carriageway certainly would be the first step. The 2035 Regional Development Strategy for Northern Ireland recognises Enniskillen as the Southwest Gateway with their strategic links to Sligo, and the strategy notes for Northern Ireland to complete globally, it needs to be connected well both internally and with the rest of the world. Gateways are strategically important transport interchanges which are important for economic development, freight distribution activities and additional employment generation. The Enniskillen bypass is one component in the further development of Enniskillen as a gateway. Whilst it is welcome to see the bypass progressing, we believe that it should be future-proofed to ensure that the technical demands and specifications are to enable it to be connected to a new dual carriageway, further cementing Enniskillen's role as a gateway. Improved journey times on roads will also have the potential to attract more people to use public transport. If somebody is travelling on a bus from Enniskillen to Belfast or Enniskillen to Sligo, they may potentially save 20 to 30 minutes on a single journey, and that would make a substantial difference to many people commuting to work. We need good road infrastructure as well in place to encourage people to make the shift to public transport, even if it is only for part of their journey. The UK government has published the Road to Zero, a strategy which aims to move effectively zero emissions from road transport by 2040. Working towards that aim, we will see the move towards decarbonised forms of transport, such as electric vehicles. The location of Fermanagh in relation to our ports and airports will not change, but people and goods will still need to move around. This again highlights the need for good road infrastructure links, particularly into the west, and the necessity to dual the A4 M16 as we move towards reducing our carbon output on our roads. We have much to offer here in Fermanagh, not only a skilled workforce and a strong entrepreneurial spirit, but a renowned tourism sector that we believe has the potential to grow even further. With the COVID-19, people are reconsidering the holiday options and looking for places like County Fermanagh, rather than flying off somewhere. A dual carriageway also makes day trips to Fermanagh more viable, improving road accessibility to our county from the rest of Northern Ireland and our neighbouring counties in the Republic has the potential to further expand our tourism sector. Whether that be through extra hotel and B&B beds, increased spend in hospitality and additional custom of leisure and social activities. Road safety is another key reconsideration.
Now you have 15 seconds, thank you.
Road infrastructure. In 2017, the Road Safety Foundation noted that a single carriageway is 3 times the risk of collision compared to a dual carriageway. The current A4 M16, particularly between Enniskillen and Fimletown, has seen many road traffic collisions and deaths. Even just before Christmas, a person lost their life not far from my own house. Okay, thank you, Chair. I will finish the remainder of that in my summing up.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warrington. And the seconder is Councillor Baird. Councillor Baird, do you want to come in at this point?
Yes, please, Chair.
Thank you. I'll allow you 3 minutes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. In researching for this motion, I did a bit of reading up on it, so a wee bit of history is relevant. In Northern Ireland, planning for a motorway system began, surprisingly enough, in 1946. In 1957, the railways in Enniskillen were closed, the links were there, and surprisingly, the same year, work on the M1 started. Sections of the M1 opened between 1962 and 68, so there was 40.6 miles of motorway from Belfast to Dungannon. The Birches section, which was beside me when I lived in Cool Island, actually at the time cost £1 million per mile to do, which seemed exorbitant at the time. Now, in the old Fermanagh District Council, Bert Johnson used to say that when the railways were closed, a promise was made of a motorway to Enniskillen. I noticed again in my research back in 19, Councillor Green referred to that. I must admit in my research I could not find any reference to a promise being made, which is rather unfortunate that we can't throw that up. But the Dungannon to Ballygolly dual carriageway opened in 2010, 12.8 miles and costing 116 million. In our motion, we are not asking for a motorway, rather a dual carriageway. So having gone forward, Victor has quite succinctly put what needs to be done there, and we'll be summing up on that. But aside to that, the A4N16 group, which we have had going for several years, which hasn't met recently, needs to be resurrected and worked on that. While not in the motion, the need in parallel to provide greenway on the route from Enniskillen to Black Lion and on to Sligo is something that needs to be done and considered. But that we're working on greenways at the moment, but that work can be done in parallel with that. But what I've got to focus on is our prime focus, and that is need for dual carriaging from Ballygawley through to Enniskillen down to Black Lion. Thank you, Chair. I second the motion.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baird. Now just opening it to the floor for debate. The first speaker is Councillor Feely.
Yes, thank you, Caherly. Thank you, Diane, for that. Yes, and I just want to welcome this motion and thank Victor and Alex there for bringing it up. It's a very good motion. I was just and thank Alex there for the wee history lesson there. He done a lot of research then, and let me to agree with a lot of stuff that Victor said there. I was just reading it there in the start. I just read it kind of quick. When I seen the southwest, I thought it's the southwest of Ireland. I told you to bring in motion about Kerry or Cork or somewhere. I'd always kind of consider myself living in the northwest of Ireland, but that's just me. That's another thing. But just going back to the motion, I think it's a good motion, and I'm glad Alex mentioned about the N4, N16 cross-border committee, because I've been raising that this couple of years to see could we get it going as far back as Robson Gibson's time there, and we still have no word of it yet. So I'm glad that Alex has mentioned it there, because as I said before, I've been elected since 2014, and we never had a meeting. Like, and it's even Victor was talking about up around 5 Mile Town and up the other side of it, but down this end from Enniskillen down to Belcoo, most of us in my area there. It's an extremely busy road, and there's some very bad corners on it, like so, and it does definitely need a revamp, you know, and the dualling would be a great job of it. And driving through Belcoo there, there's the sight of people crossing the border, going back and forth to work, and a lot of tourism going up that way, going up through Belcoo, heading up to Manorhamilton, Glenfarne, all up that direction. And they have been doing more work up there. The reverse stretch of it up around Glencairn, Manorhamilton there has been fixed, you know, so that the south is kind of, or the 26 counties kind of leaving us, going ahead of us, kind of leaving us kind of behind there. Like, it's very, very bad, this bottom part, like. So I just thank the two councillors for bringing up this motion, and our party will be supporting it. Thank you,
Okay.
Diana.
Thank you for that, Councillor Feely. Next to speak is Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. The DEP support this motion, and thank Councillor Warrington and Councillor Baird for bringing it forward. I sent a question into the Minister back there whenever we had to submit a question to her, and that was one of the questions I submitted to her for dual carriageway from Enniskillen to Ballygawley. The reason why I went that way was the volume of traffic, the more volume of traffic going into Enniskillen from Maguire's Bridge, what you have from Ballygawley to Maguire's Bridge. There's only 7,000 vehicles towards Ballygawley roundabout come towards Enniskillen. There's 4,000 vehicles leaves go up Macloy and by Monaghan. So that only leaves about 3,000 vehicles coming up the road. So that's why I went that way. So it's very good to see us coming forward. But I mind about way back, I don't mind what year it was, but it was Minister Kennedy, was the DFI minister then. And he came to a breakfast one morning in the Valley Hotel, where they were putting a bypass round Final Town. And the Chamber of Commerce in Final Town didn't want it. And they brought the minister along. And the whole thing came to a standstill after that. It was the bypass. The bypass was coming in above the churches there on the Clara side of Final Town and coming out of Corrie Longford, bypassing Final Town. And the whole thing was done, and all there was even surveys and all done, even with bridges and all marked where they were going to go, what roads was going to put bridges over. But the whole thing came to a standstill. But it's good to see that they're moving on ahead now and looking for a bypass to dual carriageway to Enniskillen on to Sligo. We welcome this, so we'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you for that, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Coffey, to speak next.
Yeah, I'm happy. It's a good intent, and I think it's certainly beyond time that we had basic infrastructural connections here, and I understand that there do appear to be some moves towards maybe bringing forward the bypass run in Enniskillen. I hope to see that proceed, but I have to just say, I know it's a UUP motion, but maybe the UUP should, the council should speak to their colleagues who are sitting in government, and just see if they can advance it through government, because it's a better way to get things done than passing motions at council meetings like this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Coffey. Next to speak, Councillor Blake.
Thanks for that, Diane, and thank you to Victor and to Alex for bringing this motion forward, because I think it's a very sensible motion that certainly by the reflection in the room is very, not divides anyone anyway, that's for sure, but I myself, my party would definitely support this. I think it's a way of driving inward investment and driving the economy in this area if there was an extension of the dual carriageway from Ballygawley on down. And then, as Nicola Mallon has also said, it's driving then in terms of a cross-border strategy, because we're a very small island, and I think it's vital that we start thinking that way when we're trying to drive this regional imbalance and trying to rectify that. So myself and my party will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we have consensus there from the last speakers. Councillor McAleer, please, your comments.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll be fairly brief on this one. I think as it seems to be a fairly sensible motion or proposal, and obviously it stands to benefit the people in Fermanagh and obviously people passing through. I think it's important that mistakes of other projects and big infrastructure projects are learnt, and obviously when it comes to following environmental guidance, that's prioritised and adhered to in the strictest possible sense. And I would just like to say that the proposer noted, or the seconder noted, the move away from carbon emissions and the move to greener technologies, that hopefully in the not too distant future we'll be looking at the development of a railway line from Enniskillen to Sligo and across the west here as well, and indeed within this district. So hopefully that'll be a motion maybe for a future meeting. But with those provisos, happy enough to support, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor McAleer. And Councillor Green, I see your hand is working there. You're next to speak.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. No, just to thank the Ulster Unionist Party for bringing this motion. I'm sure they'll be shocked to hear me saying that, given that it was the Ulster Unionist Party that actually took the railway lines out of Fermanagh a number of years ago. It would be great that belatedly they actually do something to bring infrastructure back into Fermanagh. So I welcome the motion. Again, I'll not hold my breath on it, because I come into the council, we've been talking about this, we've been talking about the Enniskillen bypass, we've been talking about the A4, and I remember the first council meeting I went to. I'm not sure which of the councillors was there who had been there for 25 or 30 years and had said the exact same as I'm after saying, that he had been talking about it for the last 30 years. So it's a good motion. I don't know how we push it on. I don't know how we put the pressure on in up in Stormont, as somebody once said famously, that Stormont seems to be like Stormont was for Greater Belfast, and the rest of us was an afterthought. And I guarantee you, if all the money was added together, what's in around a 5-mile radius of Belfast, it would dwarf everything else that's spent in the rest of the north. So I'll just leave it there and welcome the motion.
Okay. Thank you. And I see a number of other councillors indicating to come in. Just if you have something new to add, yes, certainly it's good to see this. There has been support throughout. So Councillor Clark, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I want to welcome this. But I'm a bit cautious too, because I remember that the A5 was at least, the campaign that started was at least 15 to 20 years ago, so these things don't happen overnight. I'm also slightly disappointed that the supporters of a certain independent councillor have done their best to stop the A5. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. Councillor Swift, to finish this off at this point, thank you.
Yeah, very quickly. I hope that certain independent isn't me that's being referred to. There's a lot of digs going on there tonight. But anyway, yeah, and I think this motion obviously is very well placed. I'll be supportive, and it is unfortunate that that for years and decades that we have been shouting for this to happen. And I am acutely aware, listening to the conversations of other councillors, that without a doubt, the politicians in Stormont are very much cocooned from the harshness of real politics and the real coalface that we are working with and for down here in terms of our sustainability, in terms of our tourism product. And Alex attended a Geopark Awards ceremony last week together, and we were acutely aware of how hard the individuals are working to sustain their business, and a proper infrastructure, including a digital infrastructure, is wholly necessary, but fundamental to ensure, as Victor says, people have safe and comfortable roads to drive on for their staycations. And as Emmett has mentioned about the carbon emissions, they're very much talking about the green and the saving and just exploring our own waterways, you know, and that coupled with the roads infrastructure is very important. Stormont basically has in effect become a caricature of itself. And, you know, I have been critical and scathing in the past. And, you know, this again, as I think Seamus mentioned, when he came into council, somebody had talked about that they had been mentioning it for 25 years. And I'm certainly listening to it for a very long time. I remain hopeful. And, you know, to answer that other question about the N16 committee, that will only be revised again when there becomes another election in the Republic of Ireland. That's when that committee got revived, and it was for publicity for the southern politicians. So sorry to have to be so cynical, but that's just the reality of the way it is. But I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, members. There's been unanimous support there. And I'll just go to the proposer, Councillor Warrington, to sum up with a few words, and then we'll just take consensus in the chamber. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for all the previous members for their support. It's a non-contentious motion, and I think certainly one that deserves support. A dual carriageway from Ballagolly to Enniskillen and to Sligo will cut journey times, thus improving connectivity to the Southwest Acute Hospital, which I believe is crucial to our hospital. As we've seen during the COVID-19, the SWA was utilised at different times to relieve other hospitals under pressure, cutting down journey times for patients. Travelling to the SWA surely is something that we must strive towards. To conclude, Chair, we welcome the recent comments by Minister for Infrastructure Nicola Mallon, stating that she wants to achieve regional balance in infrastructure investment. Our council therefore calls the Minister to commission a feasibility study to begin discussions with our counterpart Eamon Ryan in Dublin and our neighbouring border councils to dual the A4 N16 corridor immediately. A dual carriageway from Ballagolly to Enniskillen to Sligo would act as the single best driver of economic development and regeneration in County Fermanagh in a generation, helping us to create jobs, attract inward investment, maximise our tourism industry potential, and improve road safety and improve the connectivity of our Southwest Acute Hospital with other parts of Northern Ireland and counties Sligo, Leitrim and Donegal. Thank you for hearing this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warrington. So I'm taking it that there is consensus here. I'm just going to ask, is there anyone not in favour of this motion? Now, Councillor Clark, you have your hand up. I think that's up from before. So if there's anyone not in favour of this motion, if they can indicate by raising their hand. No, I'm taking there's nobody. Is there? And there's nobody wishing to abstain. If anyone wishes to abstain from this proposal. Again, I'm seeing no hands, so I'm taking that's passed unanimously. Thank you very much for that motion, Councillors Warrington and Baird. Moving to the second motion, item 13.2 in the agenda. This motion is proposed by Councillor Elliott and seconded by Councillor Erskine. So I'll pass over now to Councillor Elliott to give us his the motion, and then he'll have 5 minutes to outline the motion for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
This council recognises for some people coronavirus can cause symptoms that last weeks or months after the infection is gone. This is sometimes called post-COVID-19 syndrome or long COVID. Many people who have been diagnosed with COVID-19 feel better within a few days or weeks, and most will make a full recovery within 12 weeks. But for some people, symptoms can last longer and some can have long-term health problems. So this council will write the Health Minister Robin Swan MLA calling for an immediate introduction of designated long COVID clinics to deal with the many people affected by long COVID-19. That's the motion presented.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Erskine, would you like to come in and second that motion? Oh, I beg your pardon. No, sorry. Sorry. I'm not allowing you to talk about it, Councillor Elliott. Would you like to go on ahead now? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to bring forward this motion tonight. As we learn more about this deadly virus every week and welcome the work done to date and the rollout of the vaccination, I believe it is now time that we raise the issue with the growing number of people who are suffering with the long-term effects of COVID-19, now known as long COVID. As I stated in my motion, many people feel better within a few days or weeks, and most will make a full recovery within 12 weeks. But for some people, symptoms last longer, with others having long-term problems. Having seen firsthand the impact long COVID can have on a person with ongoing symptoms such as fatigue, chest pains, shortness of breath, racing heart rate, to mention a few, and to be physically unable to return to work 11 months after testing positive. We have seen in December last year across England where patients suffering with the long-term symptoms of coronavirus can now access specialist help at more than 60 assessment centres. The new centres are bringing together doctors, nurses, physiotherapists and occupational therapists to offer both physical and psychological assessments and refer patients for the right treatment and rehabilitation services. Patients can access these services if they are referred by a GP or another healthcare professional, so that doctors can first rule out other possible underlying causes for symptoms. So I ask this council to support this motion tonight, that we will write to the Health Minister Robin Swan, MLA, calling for an immediate introduction of designated long COVID clinics across Northern Ireland to deal with the many people affected by long COVID. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Elliott, and apologies again for not giving you a moment there. Thank you. And the seconder of the motion is Councillor Erskine. Would you like to make your comments, Councillor Erskine, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I want to thank Councillor Elliott for bringing forward this motion tonight, and I hope that many people will be able to support it in the chamber. As people still continue to contract COVID-19, it's a scary thought that some people may be left with these horrible effects long after the time when they should be better again. And I think it's important, you know, Councillor Elliott there has mentioned a number of effects that people are facing, such as, you know, joint pain, dizziness, all those effects, which can be quite scary for people who have been fit and healthy all throughout their lives and then contracted COVID-19 to only have these long-term impacts afterwards. This is a matter which I believe our Department of Health should look at going forward, and we have specialised clinics for many other different conditions. And it's important that we learn lessons from the pandemic, and that we learn lessons and go forward to streamline our services within the health within health as well, so that we all know waiting lists are long to be able to support these people going through these illnesses, and we need to treat these patients appropriately, considering they have been through so much. And it's important, therefore, sorry, I'm distracted here. So we must learn lessons, and we must help support these patients going forward so that their conditions do not deteriorate further. So, Chair, I hope that others can support this motion tonight, and I want to thank Councillor Elliott for bringing it forward. Thank you.
You're happy to second that. Thank you very much, Councillor Erskine. Now moving to the first speaker, Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair, me again. Well, thank you to Councillor Elliott and Erskine for bringing this motion forward. The Office of National Statistics survey on the prevalence of long-term COVID symptoms and COVID-19 complications indicates that 9.8% of COVID patients will have symptoms at 12 weeks. However, this includes people with any continued symptoms with any severity. This may include unrelated health complications and mild symptoms not requiring intervention. It is fully recognised by Robin Swan and our senior clinicians that the needs of patients with post-COVID-19 syndrome will be a long-term priority for the health service in Northern Ireland. The NICE guidelines on post-COVID-19 syndrome have been fully adopted for Northern Ireland and have been applied across the health and social care system. The Health and Social Care Board are currently developing plans for service provision for patients and taking into account the NICE guidance and developing practice around the world. There are already a range of good working models across Northern Ireland which are offering post-COVID-19 follow-up care to various groups of patients. But to harmonise all of that, the UUP supports the introduction of a one-stop model, not just one located in Belfast, but a model across each of the health and social care trusts. This multidisciplinary approach should include a range of disciplines from physiotherapy to psychology. It is essential that if Robin Swan proceeds with this new service, that he is given the necessary resources from the budget from the rest of the executive parties. The Ulster Unionist Party will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Warrington. Next to speak is Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Elliott and Councillor Erskine, for bringing forward this motion, and the comments and contribution of Councillor Warrington is also very, very welcome and helpful. Chair, it is a peculiarity of the COVID-19 virus that the way in which an individual responds to the virus is very variable. Some people appear to get off almost scot-free and have a mild illness, and indeed some patients are totally asymptomatic. But sadly, Chair, as we all know, some patients, a minority of patients, do lose their lives, sadly, and we have seen many tens of thousands of patients losing their lives, sadly, throughout the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland. And that's very much to be regretted. But as Councillor Elliott has stated, there is a significant number of people who develop the so-called long COVID syndrome, which can be extremely debilitating and stressful for patients. It is recognised as a syndrome. Councillor Warrington is quite right in terms of the NICE guidelines on managing this syndrome. But the substance of the motion is quite correct. We do need specialised clinics throughout each health board area to afford patients the opportunity of being assessed holistically, including their psychological health. Interestingly, Chair, with increasing specialisation in managing various medical conditions, it's difficult to find a suitable specialist for managing all of these symptoms. So I think a specialised clinic is warranted with input from lots of specialties and also from allied health professionals. So this is an excellent motion and I am very pleased to support it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deehan. Next speaker is Councillor Catherine Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks. First I want to thank Councillors Elliott and Erskine for bringing forward this very excellent motion. As we move through these unprecedented times and challenges to the health and social care sector, we are still learning more about what is referred to as long COVID and the ongoing and long-term effects of this virus. It is important that the Department and the Minister for Health, Robin Swan, proactively develop plans to establish clinics or rehabilitation centres that are needed to treat patients suffering from long COVID. Sinn Féin agree that we need specialised clinics and a multidisciplinary approach is needed to ensure that patients suffering from the long-term effects of COVID receive the healthcare and rehabilitation services that they need going forward. Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse. One of the most troubling developments of this pandemic is that it is emerging that our more deprived communities have experienced higher numbers of infection and death due to the COVID virus. It then stands to sense that our more deprived communities will also be disproportionately affected by long COVID in the coming months and perhaps even years, adding to the inequalities that are already existing. So any serious effort to treat the health challenges brought about by long COVID must include measures that will address the long-standing and glaring health inequalities across our communities. We can no longer tolerate a situation where quality of life and life expectancy depends on a postal code, and indeed the treatment of long COVID is covered in that too. So once again, I'd like to thank the two DUP councillors for bringing forward, and we support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly, for that. Next to speak is Councillor O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. And yet again, this is a good proposal with a good intent, and I think it's important that we do recognise and highlight the risks posed by long COVID and the fact that it's almost 10% of those suffer this condition, and that the impact is going to require particular intervention and clinics provided locally in every area. And no doubt with our badges, we're all highlighting the need for distancing to continue because it's an ongoing threat regardless of the vaccination program. But I just have to say, like I did the last one, that this is a DUP motion and it's very good and all, but you're in government, and I would just encourage people, if you're in government, then it is an easy way to get these things done, and that's talk to your colleagues in Stormont and try to get agreement in your coalition in which you sit. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coffey. And last speaker indicating is Councillor Garrity, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'll be brief because I think we've got consensus here, and want to thank Councillor Elliott and Councillor Erskine for bringing the motion. A very important one has been highlighted by everyone prior speaking to me. It's a very concerning time that we find ourselves in with long COVID, and it's very uncertain what lies ahead for many of us. But I think what has been requested here is not, you know, it's going to be very relevant going forward and very much needed, unfortunately. So I accept the motion and it comes in good faith. But I would have to tend to agree with Donal, the previous speaker. We have a lot of motions coming to Council, Chair, and, you know, where I've often said this before, where there's a will, there's a way. And where I know this motion is absolutely heartfelt intended, and hope it does grow into something and the Minister does look at it favourably. I do think that we, especially in political party grouping, should try and lobby our own people at the top and see what can be done and speed a lot of the business up, so to speak. But certainly thanks to the councillors, and indeed I'll be doing that as my other colleagues will be, so I'll lead the way on that. But thank them for bringing the motion, and the SDLP will be fully supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrity. Now I'm moving back, no other indicators to speak, so I'm going to return to the proposer, Councillor Elliott, if you wish to make some concluding remarks, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Well, I'd just like to thank the councillors for their support tonight on this motion. I was going to bring it forward to get it brought forward to our next health and social care meeting, but as I say, I brought it tonight with good intent to the council in the form of a motion. So I'd like to thank everybody for their support on it. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott, thank you very much indeed for that. Now, so I'm not seeing any dissent, so I'm just going to ask I'm taking that this is unanimously passed, but if there's anybody not happy with the motion, can they just please indicate by raising their hand? And anyone wishing to abstain from an opinion on the motion? Again, no. So that's passed unanimously. Thank you very much for that, Councillors Elliott and Councillor Erskine. That's unanimously passed. So moving to item 13.3, supporting students. Proposal by Councillor McElduff and seconded by Councillor Green. And I move to Councillor McElduff at this stage to take us through the motion here. And once you have read through the motion, we'll have 5 minutes for you to speak on it. Thank you very much, Councillor McElduff.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Gora Mergat. 13.3, supporting students. And the proposal is as follows, proposed by myself and seconded by Councillor Seamus Green, that Fermanagh and Omagh District Council welcomes the recent announcement of a £500 COVID disruption payment for students studying full-time higher education courses. Notes the exclusion of full-time students studying further education courses and students studying higher education courses in the rest of Ireland or in Britain, that this is unfair. Acknowledges the difficulty of part-time students facing financial hardship also needs to be addressed, and calls on the Minister for the Economy, Diane Dodds, to address the inequalities and ensure that all students who are currently excluded from the payment, from the COVID disruption payment, receive the £500 payment. So that's the motion, Chair. Okay, so just carry on then. Okay, thank you. Chair, this motion is in full support of the NUS, National Union of Students, and USA, Union of Students of Ireland, campaign to secure the extension of the £500 student COVID disruption payment. And we are calling on Minister Diane Dodds to provide this payment to all full-time students at FE colleges, including the Southwest College, as well as local students who are studying in the rest of Ireland or in Britain. And a good number of students from our community, from our council area, will be studying down south or in Letterkenny perhaps, and in England, Scotland and Wales, as well as locally within the north. So this follows on from our engagement as a council with student leaders and housing rights on Monday the 8th of February, and that was just 4 days after Minister Dodds announced the support payment. The FE point is crucial, not least because a significantly higher percentage of students from lower income backgrounds are currently studying FE courses, and they and their families are perhaps in greatest financial need of all. The £500 is not a panacea, far from it, but it would provide some short-term relief, as was stated by the president of Queen's University Students' Union, Grian Ní Davine, when she addressed us on that February meeting. And she said that those excluded feel 1, frustrated, 2, neglected, and 3, ignored. Now, many students, including FE students, live with their parents and would like to help out. With so many businesses closed, for example, in retail, hospitality and other sectors, they're unable to retain or find part-time jobs at this time. They're paying for accommodation that they're not using in many cases. Poor broadband connectivity in Tyrone and Fermanagh is compounding the situation, and the whole student experience is being diluted. So that's that. I understand there is an amendment, Chair, and while keen to incorporate the sentiment of the amendment regarding the writing off of student fees, I'm not sure if this is something that is within the gift of the executive or Diane Dodds. So perhaps if that could be rephrased to ask Minister Diane Dodds to lobby the British Treasury to secure that outcome it might be more effective. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor McElduff. And we're moving to your seconder, Councillor Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be short. This is a follow-on to the motion we previously put before the council in early November, looking for a payment for students, which thankfully some of them has got. I'd just like to reiterate just how badly students have been treated over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. Students in across the water in Britain are paying £10,000 fees. They're paying up to £200 per week on rent. Courses that they aren't able to attend. The students depend on part-time jobs to keep themselves living. And these part-time jobs are closed down now, so they have been literally left with nothing. They are sitting at home with bad broadband and getting very limited for their money. And I think it's shocking, and I think everything that can be done needs to be done. These are our students that's over in Britain and down in the south of Ireland, and we need to look after them. We shouldn't be asking anyone else to look after them. We need to look after them. We encourage them as governments, encourage them back to college in September to sign up to rental agreements with landlords, and no sooner did they do that and the colleges were closed down. So I think it's our duty to do something about it and to really press and try and odds to provide and support it. All students should be treated equally, and this motion, that's all it's.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Just at this point, Councillor McCloughy has declared an interest. He has a daughter, a student at university in England. He will remain but take no part, and he won't vote. So just that's for recording. At this point, there has been an amendment tabled by Councillor McAleer, and I just wanted to ask Councillor McElduff if he's accepting that amendment.
I suppose, Chair, the amendment, I think, suggests that it's within the gift of Diane Dodds as Minister to wipe out tuition fees. So I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I do welcome the spirit and intent of what Councillor McAleer is trying to achieve by adding value to the motion.
Okay, so at this point, I'll ask Councillor McAleer if he would like to.
Yeah, Chair, could I declare an interest, please?
Certainly, Councillor Wilson, that's okay. Thank you. Councillor McAleer, if you'd like to come in with your proposed amendment and put that to the chamber, thank you.
Chair, yeah, thank you. So the amended motion.
And this, beg your pardon, this is seconded by Councillor Keenan.
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So, yes.
Go ahead.
Seconded by Councillor Keenan. Welcomes the recent announcement of a £500 COVID disruption payment for students studying full-time higher education courses, notes the exclusion of full-time students studying further education courses and students studying higher education courses in the rest of Ireland or in Britain as unfair, acknowledges the difficulty of part-time students facing financial hardship and also needs to be addressed, and calls on the Minister for the Economy, Diane Dodds, to address the inequalities and ensure that all students who are currently excluded from the COVID disruption payment receive the £500 payment. Furthermore, we call on Minister Dodds to write off student fees debt for the academic year 2020 to 2021, and that all students who have paid fees up front be refunded in full. It's my understanding that it is the Department for the Economy's remit to set and to deal with fees for both HE and FE students. If that's not accurate, I would be happy to amend it to direct to the relevant person in Westminster. But as I say, that's my understanding. I'm happy to take further advice on that.
No,
in
it's
relation to
Councillor, just it is as presented, and we're working on it. Yeah, it is as presented. Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, that's my belief, as I said, so I'm happy enough to proceed with that on that basis. As has been specified or stated by the previous speakers, many students have been treated horribly, horrifically during the lockdown or the pandemic, the duration of the pandemic. They have been locked into accommodation and private rental contracts that they really don't have any need for, and that's specifically true of our local area and our rural area. Many have lost their jobs and such as holiday, or they've put their lives on the line by working on the front line, for example, in local shops, often for poverty pay. Some will have struggled to pay for basic necessities whilst being forced to pay thousands of pounds for tuition fees and to cover course costs. And indeed, I think it's worth noting in just the age profile of the council. There are probably many councillors in here who grew up during a time when access to education, regardless of the level, was actually free of charge to students. Unfortunately, myself and quite a number of the other maybe younger members of the chamber weren't so fortunate. And indeed, I left university in thousands of pounds of debt, and I'm sure that's not the only person in here that was in that boat. And that's despite having spent weekends, days when I didn't have class, working part-time, working in the hospitality industry at home here. Education, I believe, is a right. It's not a privilege, and it's not for the privileged. Likewise, it's not something that should be used to discourage those with lesser means and who can't afford it by either excluding them through the financial realities or leaving them in thousands or indeed tens of thousands of pounds of debt at the end of their education. I don't think that's fair. And as Councillor Michael Duff has referred to there, the NUS and USA have traditionally have some fairly reasonable demands there, including that education is fully funded, and I think that's not an unrealistic goal. It's something.
You have 5 seconds. Thank you.
Education and indeed healthcare should be afforded. It should be free of charge and should be covered by the government. So
okay,
I just like
thank you for that.
Thank
you. Now that's been proposed and seconded, so members are going to put that to a vote.
Chair, before we do that, can I get some clarification, a point of clarification on that?
Okay. Yes, Councillor Green, go ahead.
It's Councillor McAleer and Councillor Keenan, and is their proposal just for students based in the north? Because my belief would be that them's the only ones that Minister Dodds has any control over the tuition fees. So
that would be correct, yes.
Well, the original motion is for the students that's in Britain and in the south. So surely that the two don't correspond.
Okay, but we're going to go for a vote on it anyway. So
can I get clarification on that? Is that their intent is to just go for the students in the north?
Okay, I'll ask Councillor McAleer to come in here. Thank you, Councillor Green.
I'm more than happy to clarify, Chair. I would be talking about all students as referenced in the body of the motion. So as I said, I believe the Minister for Economy as being over students from this part of the world has the authority and the power to fund that. So I would be happy enough to propose that for all students. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAleer, for that. So we have it proposed and seconded. So members, I'm going to ask members to vote on the amendment to the original motion. If you could remove all hands at this point, please, members. Councillor Coffey and Councillor McElduff, if you could remove your hands, please. Thank you. And Councillor McAuliffe, thank you. So members, all those...
Recorded vote.
We've got a call for recorded votes. So is that Councillor Coffey has called for a recorded vote on the amendment to write off student fee debts for the academic year 2021, and that all students who have paid fees upfront be refunded in full. So I'll go through the roll call in alphabetical order.
Chair, if there's nobody objecting to it, we really have to go through the roll call.
No.
Once it's been requested, we have to go through with the recorded vote. So I'll take you through recorded vote. So on the amendment proposed by Councillor McAleer, Diana Armstrong against. Councillor Baird?
Against.
Councillor Blake?
For.
Say that again, please.
Sorry, Chair. For.
Councillor Buchanan?
Against.
Councillor Campbell?
Evaber for.
Councillor Campbell, you're not voting on this?
Tarun.
Okay, you're not voting on it. Thank you. Councillor Clark?
For.
Councillor Coyle?
For.
Councillor Curry?
Evaber for.
Councillor Dehan?
For, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly?
Evaber for.
Councillor Sean Donnelly?
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly I think he stepped out of the meeting. No, there's no reply from Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Keith Elliott?
I'll declare an interest in this. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Erskine?
Against.
Councillor Anthony Feely?
For.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
Evaber for.
Councillor Gannon?
For.
Councillor Garrity?
For, Chair.
Councillor Green?
For.
Councillor Irvine?
Against.
Councillor Keenan?
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly?
For.
Councillor Padraig Kelly?
For.
Councillor Maguire?
Aye, for.
Councillor McAleer?
For.
Councillor McCaffrey? I think he's absent. Councillor McCann?
For.
Councillor McCoffey has declared an interest. Councillor McElduff?
For. Evaber.
Councillor McPhillips?
For.
Councillor O'Coffey?
For.
Councillor O'Reilly?
For.
Councillor Rainey?
Against.
Councillor Robinson?
Against.
Councillor Smith? Declaration of interest there. Councillor Swift?
For.
Councillor Thompson?
Against.
Councillor Thornton?
Against.
And Councillor Warrington? Councillor Warrington?
Yeah, against.
Against. And Councillor Wilson is a declaration of interest. So we'll just give you your totals here. So we have 23 for and 10 against. So that amendment becomes a substantive motion. And now, members, we're going to move to vote on the substantive motion. I just have some speakers here. So at this stage, I'll invite Councillor O'Coffey in to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think first of all, I wanted to say that my understanding is that this could be provided for by a minister in the Stormont executive through funding provision. So although obviously they have no direct control over the tuition fees charged outside of the territory, obviously Stormont does have a capacity to provide or meet those fees, and in some cases they already do that. So I don't think there should be a problem. In regard to the motion itself, I'm happier with it as it stands. Obviously, I think there should be no fees for education. Education should be funded through general and progressive taxation. Obviously, COVID has presented very significant challenges, and it has revealed just how students are being used as cash cows for universities, which are increasingly corporate entities which are focused on turning a financial surplus. And they're also looked at as one of the sources of revenue for landlords who are only too happy to get their hands on the revenue. And I want to personally congratulate all those students in universities who have organized mighty wave of rent strikes, which have defeated the attempts to extract more and more value out of them. In particular, I want to pay tribute to the students in the likes of Swansea and in Scottish universities and Northern English universities, who have basically brought the Conservative Party as a whole to the negotiating table on this, and we've seen concessions made. There should be controls, rent controls over any accommodation provided to students. There should be no charges for education at any level. It should be free. There should be a return to the grant system, maintenance grants, which are meaningful and adequate to meet the living conditions of all. And the grant that people now refer to as a maintenance grant used to be the book allowance back in the day. So it gives you a sense of just how bad things have gone. So we want to see all that reversed, and hopefully this will be the first step along the way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Gannon to speak next.
Thank you, Chair. At the beginning of this pandemic and throughout the majority of it, student campaigners such as those in NUS USA and students were largely ignored. They didn't get support. They went so long without support. They went so long without talk of support, and support has only recently happened. And the SDLP played a big part in bringing this support, this £500 support to the table, because we listened to students. I do need to just recognise Councillor Green mentioned his previous motion, you know, bringing that from Annanoma District Council, listened to students as well. Maybe others weren't, but we were listening here, and as a party we were listening as well. We took the time to hear stories of hundreds and thousands of students who can't afford to tell us their stories in our surveys, and many signed our petition as well, our party petition, and we formed this proposal over around £500 for every student, and it was intended, the original intention was for every student, including those studying in the rest of Ireland and in Britain, and those also in further education. But what was brought forward and what was produced sadly didn't meet this and deviated from our original proposal, and it missed out on so many missed out. You know, students have had a year with subpar delivery of education. I know from speaking to so many, they're not getting anywhere near what they should be getting this past year, and many have been trapped in expensive tenancy agreements, costing them thousands of pounds for places that they can't even go to. And I know a couple of years ago when I was a student, I had to work 3 jobs to get by and just to survive. And what so many people now who would have done that just simply can't, because COVID has taken away their opportunity to work. It's taken away their opportunity to supplement their income, and many are really struggling to survive at the minute. And it's just so unfair that so many students have been nearly discriminated against and forgotten about, those studying outside the north and those in further education, even in the north. And you know, the SDLP and Sinead McLaughlin, MLA, have already been pushing for this. I'm glad to see it be brought to our council here by Councillor McElduff and Councillor Green, and I know our party will continue to push for this as well. I think it's important to mention just the amendment, and I think it's real good sentiment to the amendment. I'd mentioned about students not getting what they signed up for, and some sort of refund must happen.
You have 30 seconds. Thank you.
Some sort of refund must happen, as it's thousands of pounds for students. Something needs to be done. We need to see £500, which is a small amount, extended, and we need to see more support given, and potentially refunding could be the way to do that. And obviously, myself and my party will be supporting this. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Gannon. Councillor Dehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I want to commend Councillors McElduff and Green for bringing forward this motion, and Councillor McAleer and Keenan for their very sensible amendment. I think it is right, Chair, that Fermanagh and Omagh District Council is concerned with the welfare of our student population, because they are, after all, the future of our district, the future of our country. And as other members have said, education is a right, it is not a privilege. And owing to increased college and university fees and increased cost of living, students are really under severe pressure, financial pressure, added to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has compounded their problems, because students who would normally work to support their academic studies, many of them are not in a position to do so. And I want to commend the student body for their ambition, for their hard work, for their determination to progress in their academic careers, to gain their qualifications and make a very, very valuable contribution to our society. Because, Chair, after all, if we did not have these students investing their time, energy and effort, you know, where would we be as a society? And we should not make our students financially liable. It's stress enough to have to complete their studies and do their examinations. And certainly this past year, the COVID pandemic has ensured that the students are not getting the tuition that they paid for. And therefore it is right that there should be some recognition of this and financial compensation in the way of reimbursement of fees paid. So I again want to say how much our student body means to us, and it is right that we as a council should support them. So I support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dehan. And next to speak, Councillor Buchanan.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you. We do appreciate the sentiments behind the motion, but we must remember that ministers can only work within the law. The power to make these payments comes from emergency legislation, which is brought in under the Financial Assistance Act, and payments to students from Northern Ireland are made via an outside body. As far as I'm aware, that's the Universities for Student Loans Company. Now, the Act doesn't provide any legal power for an outside body to make those payments to Northern Ireland students who are outside of Northern Ireland, whether they're in the Republic of Ireland or in England, Scotland or Wales. Now, the payments have to be made by the end of March or by the end of the financial year. Now, if Sinn Féin could put forward a legal or practical way to identify the students and process the payments to the students who are outside of Northern Ireland, then they should say how to do that instead of raising hopes of students which can't be met. There are 15,000 students from Northern Ireland studying in either Great Britain or Republic of Ireland. The only way a payment could be made to these people would be to do so directly, and this would involve an application process, and there would be a lot of verifying of the applications to be done. Now, I can't identify how this could be done within the next month, but if it could, no one would have a problem supporting it, and the Economy Minister could revise her bid to the Finance Minister, asking him to provide more funding for it. Now, Chair, just in my concluding remarks, we would have been generally supportive of the original motion, but now with the amendment, it's hard to vote for something that we aren't sure on the legal implications of, or whether Stormont even has the wherewithal to act on it. So thank you for letting me in there, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you for that, Councillor Buchanan. And the final speaker is Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. We in the Ulster Unionist Party welcome the disruption payment of £500 to students. We would have supported the original motion, very much so, but with regard to it, many local students have been caught paying for their accommodation which cannot be used. Many have lost their part-time jobs, as has been said before, and this more or less, these highlight the difficulties that students and frustration that students have. We would have supported the original motion, but we don't believe that it's within the competency of Minister Dodds to write off student fees as in the amendment. And that's why we didn't support the amendment. We don't believe it's her role, and we would have been happy with Councillor McElduff's suggestion that Minister Dodds lobbies. But unfortunately, that wasn't the way the amendment was made, and we thereby had to vote against the amendment. But we would have supported the original motion, as it is important that we can support the frustrated young people who have been disadvantaged so far with the pandemic. So it's just for clarification, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Thornton. And at this point, I'm going to bring in the proposer of the original motion, Councillor McElduff, to sum up, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think as a council, we are united behind our students at this time. It's a very, very useful exercise to meet with student leaders in early February. And again, we're all connected within our own communities. We're hearing the messages from students who are not getting enough support at this time. So just thank everybody for their contribution to this debate, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And at this point, we'll go to a vote on this substantive motion now. So if I could have an indication, are we all in favour?
No.
No. Okay, so we're
Chair,
going
could
to
I
have
request a recorded vote just for this one, please?
Okay, we'll take you through a recorded vote again. So this is for the substantive motion, the motion including the amendment tabled by Councillor McAleer, as per the text on your decision time on your devices. So going through in alphabetical order, Councillor Armstrong against, Councillor Baird.
Against.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan.
Against.
Councillor Campbell. You've declared an interest, Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Curry.
Evaver, for.
Councillor Dehan.
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Evaver, for.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly, I think, is still absent. Councillor Keith Elliott declared an interest. Councillor Erskine.
Chair, can I just double check before I vote that this is with the amendment?
Yes, this is with the amendment. Yes, this is
against.
Councillor Feely.
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Evaver, for.
Councillor Gannon.
For.
Councillor Garrity.
For, Chair.
Councillor Green. Councillor Green.
For, Chair.
Councillor Irvine.
Against.
Councillor Keenan. Councillor Keenan. I'll go back to Councillor Keenan there.
Chair, sorry, I think his connection cut out there. I think he's still in the meeting, but he's having IT difficulties. Just
okay, we'll see if we can get him back on there with IT. We'll do that. Thanks for letting me know. Councillor Catherine Kelly.
For.
Catherine. For. Councillor Padraig Kelly.
For.
Councillor Maguire.
Nahay, for.
Councillor McAleer.
for.
Councillor McCaffrey is absent. Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McCloughley has declared an interest. Councillor McElduff.
For. Evaver.
Councillor McPhillips.
For.
Councillor O'Coffey.
For.
Councillor O'Reilly.
For.
Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Smith has declared an interest. Councillor Swift.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
Councillor Wilson has declared an interest. So we'll go back and see if Councillor Keenan is with us. Are you voting for or against?
For, yeah.
For. Thank you. Thanks, members. And So members, we have 23 for, 10 against and 4 members not voting. So that substantive motion is carried. Thank you for that. Thank you members for that debate as well. Moving now the agenda to the next motion, which is on dementia, proposed by Councillor Catherine Kelly and seconded by Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. Catherine, I'll let you read through the motion and then you have 5 minutes to take us through your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It reads that Fermanagh and Omagh Council notes with concern figures from NIDA showing that COVID in the North of Ireland in a 6-month period last year also had dementia. This council urges the Minister of Health, Robin Swan, to make dementia a standalone priority in his department's reform of adult social care. This will ensure that those who are living with dementia will be better protected now and into the future. This includes working with the care home sector to allow safe care partner. This council will commit to build on the work communities by hosting a virtual dementia-friendly workshop. This council will increase the awareness and confidence of our staff to better relate to, support and communicate with people with dementia, to help tackle stigma, establish best practice within our council area. And I now do my own comments, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, firstly for accepting this motion. From the outset, I'd like to acknowledge the work of the Alzheimer's Society and the people there who work tirelessly to represent the interests of people that live among us that have dementia. The ongoing COVID pandemic has brought into sharp face by people affected by dementia wherever they live, whether it is in care homes or within their own communities. From the high death rate in care homes to the significant cognitive decline for the community, to the rising mental health challenges for unpaid carers, the pandemic has had a severe impact, while at the same time exposing our fragmented and inadequate social care system for all to see. According to the London Economics, there are currently over 22,000 people living with dementia here in the north of Ireland. This figure is projected to nearly double to 42,800 by 2040, with a cost to the economy of over £1 billion. According to an Alzheimer's Society in September 2020, people affected by dementia have been the worst hit by the coronavirus pandemic, facing devastation at home, in their community and in care homes. According to NISRA, from March to September 2020, dementia was the most common pre-existing condition, appearing in 327 of the 902 COVID-19 related deaths, amounting to 36.3%. Many of our citizens affected by dementia face the challenges of a global pandemic, isolated and vulnerable. This can never be allowed to happen again. The effects of the COVID pandemic cannot be undone, but urgent action can be taken to better protect our people in the future. In order for this to happen, we need to address the impact of the extended lockdown and isolation for people affected by dementia. The care and support offered by family members to care home residents, especially those with dementia, is essential for the emotional, mental and physical well-being for all involved. It is a mutually beneficial relationship, bringing comfort to the carer as well as the person being cared for. The value of this care and support to our community, and indeed to our healthcare budget, is immeasurable, and we would be negligent if we did not acknowledge the huge contribution and sacrifices these family members make every day, and not least during the pandemic crisis.
You've 10 seconds.
Families of care home residents say, oh gosh,
no, go on. Sorry, you have 5 minutes. Sorry, go on.
I was wondering. Families of care home residents say a one-size-fits-all approach to visitation does not serve the needs of those who are most vulnerable within the care sector. The approach does not reflect the varied needs of care, the varied nature of care needs. The Minister of Health's recent encouragement for care partner arrangements and incremental easing of COVID-related visiting restrictions, but much more remains to be done to address the needs of people with dementia in care homes and in community settings, and the Minister needs to consult with care homes and families on the best way forward in that care. Too many people affected by dementia feel society fails to understand their condition, its impact on how to interact with them. This is why people with dementia sometimes feel they need to withdraw from their community as their condition progresses. This is something we as a society must remedy through education and interaction that creates understanding of the condition. People affected by dementia still have an incredible amount to offer to our communities and, if appropriately supported, can continue to play an active and valuable role even years after their diagnosis. The Dementia Friendly Communities programme challenges the stigma and misconception about dementia, increases awareness and understanding in the community, and improves access to community facilities for people with dementia. It is my hope with the passage of this motion, our council will engage with the Alzheimer's Society to arrange dementia-friendly workshops. Finally, and more largely, reform of adult social care is important so that we can end the unfair daily injustice people with dementia and their families face in accessing and paying for the quality care to which they are entitled. The aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic will provoke many discussions around health and social care, and one of the most important is the need for a frank public discussion about the value of social care to society and not only to those who use it. Building a better understanding of dementia as a serious and progressive health condition and its impact on the person and on family carers can tackle damaging and discriminatory practices. As a society, we must take action to ensure people with dementia and carers are given the high quality care and support they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly, and apologies for stopping you at the wrong time there. I hope I didn't knock you off track. The seconder is Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Yes, Diana.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me in, Diana. I think Councillor Kelly has really said it all, but I'm delighted to second this motion, and I think there's nobody in the chamber who has a member of the family who hasn't got dementia, or as the older people used to call it, doting. I think it's a good thing for the Minister to bring in a priority for a better strategy for better dementia care and a standalone priority for better dementia care. As we all know, people living with dementia struggle or are totally incapable with the guidance or the rules around COVID. Just basic things like hand washing, face covering, social distancing, to name but a few. And henceforth, as Councillor Kelly stated, the really high death rate within that group of people. Without these additional help and guidance, these people are more likely to the virus. Not only has 2020 had a huge impact on all of us, but it raises many points on the total inadequacies of the health department on how to appropriately deal with people living with dementia. They tend to be very anxious, agitated, unable to follow instructions, perhaps constantly on the move. They're touching things and people, and therefore are unable to hand sanitize their hands properly, wear protective clothing. Could also be confined to one living room, one dining room, not enough staff who are probably trained with dementia awareness, and not enough PPE equipment for the staff of other patients, to name but a few. There is a saying that out of bad things, good things happen. And I believe this pandemic will make us all aware of being more inclusive, more acceptable, and caring to others, especially those living with disabilities, to help to make them remain part of our community. I'm hoping to see the full implementation of the care partner visiting to care homes. It will not only be a huge benefit to the staff, but that human contact, that human touch for the patients is vital and helps them to relax, familiar surroundings, They might know a lot, but they could know the person who's there. So regular contact by people that they know is very important. So I'm really happy to second this proposal. It's worthwhile, and I hope the Chamber is the same. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you very much for that, Anne-Marie. Bringing in Councillor Deehan now.
Thank you, Chair. And at the outset, I want to commend Councillor Catherine Kelly and Councillor Fitzgerald for bringing this motion to Council, which I'm very happy to support. There's no doubt that the diagnosis of dementia is a devastating one, and much research has been completed over the years as to the cause and optimum management of dementia, and that is to be welcomed. Chair, we have also seen in popular media, including literature and films, about the patient journey of those who suffer from dementia. So it does bring into the public consciousness the fact that dementia is a common illness and a very disabling one. I want to commend the work of the Alzheimer's Society, and I certainly would support the call by Councillor Catherine Kelly for a dementia workshop that would help to educate all of us into dealing with and supporting people who do have dementia. Now, sadly, and we have had this debate in Council before, Chair, we saw the devastating impact of the first wave of the COVID pandemic on our care home populations, including those patients with dementia. And thankfully, Minister Swan and his department have made substantial investments in this sector and have reviewed their management of COVID in care homes. And that, I think, has proved very beneficial. Nevertheless, this particular sector remains exceptionally vulnerable to COVID. But as Councillor Kelly points out, not only are they vulnerable to the effects of COVID, and we welcome the completion of the vaccination programme for this particular cohort of patients, and hope that that will improve their protection. But also it's about their underlying dementia and the lack of social contact, and how these people, their mental health has really suffered, and their physical health. And therefore, these initiatives like a care partner visiting are much to be welcomed and commended, and I think that that needs to continue. But much work to be done, and I think that this motion will contribute to that. We have seen over the years care packages, social care packages for patients
15 seconds.
to remain in their own homes remains very much defective at this point. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I want to support this motion, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Deehan. Speaking next is Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. And at this stage, can I also thank and commend Councillor Catherine Kelly and Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald for bringing this motion forward this evening in a very timely manner. Madam Chair, I have had experience of a close family member having a type of dementia, as my late mother suffered from Alzheimer's disease in the 1.5 years prior to her passing in December 2015. I certainly know how this can affect the person with the disease and also the impact on their families. I salute all the work carried out by the Alzheimer's Society and will support the sentiments expressed in the motion and what has been proposed in this motion. Namely, to make dementia a standalone priority in the Department's reform of adult social care. We're working with the care home sector to allow safe care partner visiting and the hosting of a virtual dementia friendly workshop. Madam Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party, I want to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Thompson, for that. Councillor McLaughlin, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. And like Councillor Thompson, I'd like to thank Councillor Catherine Kelly and Anne-Marie Fitzgerald for bringing this motion. My own mother, again, suffered with dementia in her latter years, and it is an awful strain on families to care for. We were lucky we were able to, with support from friends, neighbours and extended family, we were able to keep her at home. But it is an awful tie for a family, and in particular my father, who was the main carer. It's an awful drain mentally on people. The COVID-19 pandemic had created many challenges, particularly for those vulnerable and in risk groups, because of their cognitive impairments. Many had difficulty understanding the changes which COVID-19 had forced upon them. The use of PPE, social distancing, constant cleansing, many of these things were very difficult for them to take in. And the fact that we're looking at workshops, I've seen the outworkings of one of these workshops where St Mary's School in Erdenstein met with people suffering from Alzheimer's, and they undertook a project which the PCSP was happy to fund. They give out name badges throughout the shops in Erdenstein, simple name badges with just a Christian name on them. That's an icebreaker for somebody taking somebody into the shop and they've got somebody to speak to. That's a massive icebreaker, and to engage in a small part of conversation is a cognitive, because often they're standing there and they're completely confused. When they see a name and they recognize it, even if they don't recognize the person, they use the name and it will engage them in conversation. So simple things they got there, and that's what we could maybe get out of these workshops. The homes were unfortunately hit with something which they had never encountered before, and the minister has identified that this has to be a learning. It's taken us almost a year to get to the stage where families can start to go back to visit, and it's probably going to take us another year to work out ways to protect people in homes. They are very vulnerable when they're in there. They're confined. They're restricted to where they can go, and when they don't have family interacting with them, that makes it extremely difficult. So the Ulster Unionist Party will be quite happy to support this motion and the sentiments of it.
Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Swift, your contribution, please.
Yeah, Gurmagat, and I will be supporting the motion in its entirety. It's extremely important, and obviously this issue of dementia doesn't just affect the elderly, as was known in the past. It is affecting younger people now, and I'm glad to have availed of the training the council provided in the last mandate, because it certainly increased my awareness and indeed confidence on how to deal and manage with the situation if put in front of me. It was an excellent training, of which I'm sure the virtual workshop proposed is going to be similar, and if that can be checked out, that would be good. And I do remember on that day Earl giving his examples of what he had dealt with, and we learned a lot from his real life experience of the symptoms of the subtle short-term memory changes, indeed the changes in mood, the difficulty for anybody in completing normal tasks, just the confusion and all of the difficulties in struggling to adapt to any change. So very important that we are aware, and there was a great promotional campaign that took place about in different various shops throughout our super council area about the dementia friendly. We were given our own badges on that day with certificates as well, to be people who could be approached or could deal and manage a situation. And I do think, and others have mentioned it, it is about now being aware, and to if you see somebody who is confused, to be helpful and to be patient and kind, and to support all the people who are living with dementia, to raise the awareness of this particular illness, dementia, in their own right. So I'll be fully supporting the motion. Guramagat.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Swift. Councillor McPhillips.
Thank you very much, Chair. I suppose dementia it's very much a major problem in our society. It's an illness that is becoming far too common. I'm sure, and I know some members have spoke previous, that quite a few of us have had loved ones who have experienced it or is experiencing this cruel illness. And I use the word cruel because that basically is exactly what it is, taking away basically entire brain functions, thinking, remembering, reasoning, and even affecting daily living. So I very much welcome this motion, and thank Councillor Kelly and Councillor Fitzgerald for bringing it forward, and we, the SDLP, will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McPhillips. Two more speakers, Councillor O'Coffey and Councillor Baird. I'm bringing in Councillor O'Coffey now, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's another important issue. More than 20,000 people with dementia in Northern Ireland. That's a huge number. We have a higher than average burden of this disease, and it is indeed important that we take cognizance of the particular challenges posed not just by the COVID, but in terms of the care provision and the difficulty of for families in terms of managing this situation, and for those involved in it as well. So I'm very much supportive of the commitment to have the council have a meeting on a workshop on it to find out be better able to engage in these things. And I also think that the proposal to encourage and to enable our staff to be better able to relate to and communicate with people with dementia is something that I think is a very valuable proposal. And just in terms of making dementia a standalone priority by the Minister for Health, I would just reiterate that I think, as Sinn Féin brought forward this motion, I think it's important that they use their contacts within Stormont to actually enable that to happen, because you're in government with government partner parties, and as we hear today on all these issues, there's a lot of agreement between the parties. So hopefully that can mean action can proceed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Coffey. And to final comment to Councillor Baird, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think to date, to this moment, the motions that have been put forward, it's remarkable the quality of the motions, the heartfelt feelings in the motions, and indeed the relative unanimity in it. So I would like to thank the proposers of this motion. I like so many others, have a personal experience of dementia. Just one comment I want to make, and I'm not being facetious here. During our motion, Councillor Feely referred to the Southwest and being confused. I just hope that with Southwest being Kerry, I just hope he doesn't have to go to the Southwest Hospital in any urgency and end up in Kerry. But from my own point of view, going to the first paragraph, it's just the terminology, the North of Ireland. To me, the North of Ireland includes Donegal, but then I realised when the Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency were providing figures, I'm presuming that this terminology is used, but what we're talking about is Northern Ireland. I say I'm not trying to be facetious here, but had the proper terminology been used, and not in a pejorative way, I wouldn't be making these comments. So, as I say, I can assure you that my comments are not intended to take away from the seriousness or the standing of this motion, but I will be supporting it. But I would just ask the proposer to clarify that it is Northern Ireland that she's referring to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Baird. And I'll pass over now to Councillor Kelly to make her concluding remarks on what has been, received with great unanimity, and to thank you for bringing this forward. Councillor Kelly, would you like to give us your summing up remarks, please? And if you wish to respond to Councillor Baird, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll respond to Councillor Baird. I have brought two motions to the Council, and each time that I've brought them, they've been very compassionate types of motions, regarding well-being in our community. And twice, Councillor Baird has performed this North of Ireland versus Northern Ireland Act of his. I'm an Irish Republican, and I make no apologies for referring to the North of Ireland as the North of Ireland. So I'm just going to leave that there. As far as the motion's concerned, I'd like to thank all the councillors for the words of support, and particularly to Councillors Thompson, McClahary and Baird indeed, for more personalised accounts. It really adds to the discussion, adds a lot to the debate to hear of people's personal experiences. But finally, again, I want to commend the work of the Alzheimer's Society, who go a long way in teaching us all to create a more compassionate and inclusive, caring society. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly, thank you very much for that. And as we've gathered, there is consensus within the chamber. I'm just going to ask if there is anyone not in favour, not in support of the motion. No, I think that has been unanimously and gratefully received. Thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Kelly. And moving to the final motion of the evening, is a motion brought by Councillor Podrigan Kelly, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, item 13.5 on the agenda. And I'll just invite Councillor Kelly to read it to us, and then I will give you 5 minutes to make your points. Thank you. Podrigan.
Thank you, Diana. This council recognises the underfunding in the Western Health and Social Care Trust to vulnerable adults, and in particular those with learning disabilities. We are aware that there were issues raised in 2016 concerning the funding of disabled adults within the Western Trust. There was to be a thorough independent investigation into this matter after concerns were raised by parents. These concerns, stresses and anger still exist today, and rightfully so. We call on this council to write to the Health Minister Robin Swan, as well as Chief Executive Dr. Anne Kilgallen, to acknowledge the need for a full investigation and urging the funding to be reinstated to support those who can't make this call themselves. This underspend was discovered in 2016 by parents who are rightfully angered. Whilst there was an investigation into it and it was discovered that 42 million was lost, my question is, where exactly did this funding go? Why do those with learning disabilities and their families have to suffer at the expense of other service users? Anne-Marie and I, along with many other party colleagues, were contacted by service users and their families who are still awaiting reasons as to why this underspend has occurred. We find ourselves in a situation where the funding for disabilities, and particularly those with learning disabilities, do not meet the needs of our trust, but particularly the Fermanagh and Omagh area. These services are so important. They provide respite, social care, and indeed healthcare for those who need it. We have seen across other trusts, particularly the Belfast Trust, what can happen, and I'll make the reference to Muckross, which is subject to a public inquiry. This is what underfunding and underservicing can cause in those types of settings, and these are some of the most vulnerable people in our society. Therefore, we, as public representatives, must speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves. I ask for support in this motion tonight, that we as a council write to the Health Minister Robin Swan, as well as the Chief Executive Dr. Anne Kilgallen, urging for a full investigation as to where this money exactly went, and calling for the funding to be reinstated to support those who cannot make this call themselves. And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. And I'm bringing in Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald now as a seconder of the motion. Anne-Marie?
Yes, thank you, Diana. I would like to second this proposal. I think all the proposals tonight has been very worthwhile, and I also think this one here is huge, and there's still an awful lot of families struggling out there. And whilst we do recognise that there probably was an investigation taking place, the families involved have seen absolutely no change in what's happening in their lives and for their ability to provide for their loved ones who are in need most of it. These adults, a lot of them are young. One family member came forward, has got a young service user who's the age of 23, and they have slipped through the net. And I think it's just not good enough. He was born with many difficulties and received lots of care throughout his life. When he was 18, no contact at all with anybody from the learning disability team until they felt in great need last year. And it was with the health crisis last year that these families just recognised just how much they've been continued to be let down. These adults have very many complex health needs. They need the support of a specialised service, but they also need to have an interagency, joined-up approach for much better outcomes. And it's the lack of this multidisciplinary approach means that families are not even getting the disability facility grants to improve their homes that they are entitled to, but they're constantly getting them denied. The family who came forward to me had one of these because of incorrect and inaccurate records and not a joined up approach. Families state that whenever their child is younger, that the help they got was very supportive. And now that they have gone from childhood until young adulthood, the support is gone. They've been left in a void. You know what I mean? Nobody is coming forward. There's huge ongoing issues with OTs, physiotherapy, speech therapy. There's no learning disability specialists in any of these at all. If you have to, I'm taking this service user, that whenever there were non-verbal young adult went forward to speech therapy or to physiotherapy, they had to be seen by pediatric therapists. And it's just not good enough because they're adults and they're entitled to the same service as each of us. It's more complex, probably more detailed, more refined, but they're entitled to a free NHS service. And I'm also asking us as a council to write to the Trust asking, are the families of these learning disability complex service users, do they have full access to a social worker? And are their cases reviewed yearly? Have there any specialist or coming in specialist learning disability speech therapists, OTs, physiotherapists, community nurses, assistants, who are trained or are currently being trained in our area? And also, are the families of children, adults with learning disabilities
If you could just bring it to conclusion. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Discussions to agree on reports on the way forward? And what money has been allocated and spent yearly since 2016? And if there's been any underspent since 2016? This is my last sentence. The families want us, just as for Mana and Oma District Council, to support them and for them continuing their struggle and the need for better joint up approach with all involved around the one table with specialists involved. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Diane.
that, Anne-Marie. Thank you. Now, the
Chair.
first
Chair.
Councillor Clark, yes?
Yeah, I suppose I have to declare an interest here because people may know I have a brother who would
Okay,
fit
we
into this
can
category.
we can
Okay,
note
thank you.
that. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Dehan, you're the first to speak on the motion that has been brought to us by Councillor Kelly and Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and excellent motions that have come to Council this evening, and I'm very glad that, you know, they have broadly been non-contentious. So to thank and commend Councillor Padraigeen Kelly and Councillor Fitzgerald for bringing forward this motion, and of course everything that they have stated is quite correct, that adults with learning disability constitute a cohort of individuals with very complex needs, because quite often a learning disability can be associated with physical and psychological issues, and so their care can be very complex and at times can be extremely challenging for families. It is so important that these families feel listened to and supported in every way, including financially, with the proper support services. We do know that there was a funding deficit identified in 2016, and profuse apologies were made and promises of deficiencies in services to be addressed. There have been some improvements, yes, but much work remains to be done. And Councillor Fitzgerald is correct that we need an holistic approach. And in an earlier motion, we talked about a one-stop shop. And because the care of these adults are so complex, I think a one-stop shop is what is needed, where you have allied health professionals working very closely with social services and with the consultant psychiatrist for learning disability, so that all their needs can be met. I accept that the transitioning arrangements between child and adolescent services for learning disability, transitioning into adult learning disability services, seems to be very, very disjointed and not at all joined up. So it is appropriate that we should support this motion, and we hope that service provision will improve in the near future, and that Minister Swan will be given the resources that he needs to make the changes which are so needed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Deehan. The next speaker is Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say it's been really wonderful this evening to see motions that are coming before the Chamber that we can all support and agree on, and certainly this is one that I would certainly, and my party certainly would be supportive of tonight. I remember whenever in a previous life working as a journalist for one of the local newspapers, and this story was brought to my attention in 2016 by parents, and I remember reporting on that at the time and speaking to a number of parents, and it was like for the first time their voice was truly being listened to when it was revealed, you know, that a deficit in things in services was there. And I remember in particular speaking to a family, and they did say to me they were sort of approaching pensionable age, and said that they were concerned about what their future would be for their child. And that really struck me, because that child was approaching the same age as me. And that really struck me, that those parents were afraid of what was going to happen to their children in the future. And how many since 2016 have slipped through the net during that time, and what impact has that had upon families? And apologies and things like that, yes, all well-meaning and with some improvements, but families just want answers and they want help and support. And it's important that families are supported properly and appropriately, as many families are at breaking point as a result of lack of services and support. So I fully support this motion coming before Council tonight, and I want to thank the two councillors for bringing it forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Erskine. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Councillor Kelly and Fitzgerald and Paddy and Anne-Marie for bringing this motion tonight. And I remember when, before this story broke, speaking to people who have been affected, and indeed I believe I was speaking to the person who actually uncovered this discrepancy, a very intelligent lady. I'll not name her, but in my opinion she was the one that kind of broke this information. And I was only not long in council at the time, and really couldn't believe what she was actually saying. Turned out to be absolutely 100% the truth. And as the proposer and seconder have said, nothing really good enough has been done to date yet. And these are the most vulnerable in our society. And, you know, it's perhaps the most disturbing motion of all tonight, because when you think that we're not looking after these people and their families, we wonder really what sort of people are we. So I know it's been on the go for a while, but they're quite right. And I want to genuinely thank Paddy and Anne-Marie for bringing this to light again and asking these questions, and hopefully we will get some answers for the people, and funding and the resources put back in where they need to be, because this is a serious flaw that happened in our system, however it happened, and basically it needs to be rectified as soon as possible. And I want to thank them and all the members for their comments to date. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Garrity. Two more speakers on this before we conclude. It's Councillor Smith next.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I suppose first and foremost, I do want to thank the two individuals, Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Kelly, for bringing this forward. It's an important issue. I think the way to look at it is sort of two-pronged. One is to identify what happened so that it doesn't happen again, and then to rectify it for the future. Historical underfunding that happened in 2006 was shameful. It was unforgivable, and the people affected, they need answers, but they also deserve the resources that they were initially promised. Former Sinn Féin Health Minister ordered an independent review immediately into what happened, and I suppose one of the biggest casualties of the pulling down of the Assembly was that the independent, sorry, trying to get my words mixed up, that independent investigation didn't have its terms of reference agreed. That led to even more upset and distress for the families and service users who have been affected so badly. Since coming into office, Mr. Swan has been clear that he wants these answers. He wants answers into exactly what happened and how it was able to happen. That two-pronged approach. And once we move through this latest COVID surge, the minister says he wants to revisit this issue and identify the next steps informed by the views of the families affected. Equally as important as finding out what happened is to rectify the problem. And the need for the money to be invested where it needs to be. The Trust have already given a commitment to spend an additional £8 million in learning disability services, and so it is essential that they are kept to their word, and this is something that the Health Minister has made a commitment that he will hold them to. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Smith. And to the final speaker now, Councillor O'Coffey, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And this is indeed a scandal. It is envisaged that since 1994, the amount of money spent on support services for that have been underfunded amounts to about 5% of the budget. If you add that up cumulatively, it's excessing certainly 100 million, if not a good bit more. And I know for many of those who have fought this long battle, and I want to pay tribute to their efforts and continue to support what they're doing, because this has only come out as a result of an implacable desire for justice and for truth. And that's the sort of thing that's going to eventually change this society for the better, hopefully. And we have to just continue that struggle. The issue is, I think the previous contributor actually made some points I was going to make myself, which is that the relatives and families who have fought this battle for so long were promised at the very end of 2016 that there would be an investigation, but obviously that was a very short promise because we immediately had the suspension of the institutions, and many of them would be of the mind that that was known, that the situation was ending and that we were looking at the suspension, and that's why it's easy to make a commitment when it's not delivered upon. Now, my understanding is in the meantime, there have been some moves to right this in the current, but the legacy of the money that has been denied, the consequences for the families, for the individuals involved are really severe. And we all know that, as every one of us is a councillor representing people in this area, rural area, where people are very isolated, families are left carrying the can. And I also understand that some of the money which was not spent here was actually spent on additional costs of facilities overheads. So there are questions on how that happened and the oversight mechanisms. And then there are basic accountability questions over who was responsible for such an outcome. Because to my reading, it does definitely look like an inhumane calculation, which made people suffer the consequences of underfunding and moving from one to the other. So it's a motion I support, but again, this is a motion that the Stormont executive parties can resolve. We've had a lot of motions today from parties representing government partners, and we need to see them resolved at that level, not a level of motions before this council. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor O'Coffey. And just returning to the proposer, Councillor Podrigan Kelly. Podrigan, would you like to make your summing up now, please?
Yes, and I'd like to thank everyone for their kind comments today. This motion came forward after I was contacted by local people who have really suffered as a result of this, and this is something I feel very passionate about, and it's something that I would really like to see results for. I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to the discussion tonight and for the support. Those people who cannot make this call themselves and their families deserve this support in these, at the minute, very difficult times, but even more difficult with a situation like this. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that, Councillor Kelly. I'm taking it that this is a motion that has unanimous support. If there's anybody indicating otherwise,
Diana, you're on mute.
yeah, I've just hit that button. Could Councillor Clark and O'Coffey please remove their hands? Thank you. And members, I'm taking that there is unanimous support for the motion. If there's anybody not in support of the motion, can they please put their hand up at this point? Okay, and can I take it that all in favour? Thank you, members. So that is unanimously passed. And members, I personally would like to thank all contributors to the motions this evening, all proposers and seconders for those motions which, have enjoyed unanimous support and considerable debate. At this point, now we're moving on to any other relevant and urgent business. Hopefully, looking at the clock, we can make it to 10 o'clock and allow you all some of your evening left at home. I've been contacted by 4 councillors. So first of all, Councillor Garrity, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Dana, for letting me in on this item. And I know you have been contacted as well via email, but just for the members to let them know, this is Lymphedema Awareness Week 2021, and I know that the Mayor of Derry and City and Strabane District Council has contacted you, Brian Tierney. Brian has 2 children who suffer with this illness, and he would like to raise awareness about it. Now, I do know that it's up to this Saturday, the 6th of March is the actual week that is in it. This illness is a long-term chronic condition that causes swelling in the body tissues. It can affect any part of the body, but usually develops in the arms or legs, and it develops where the lymphatic system does not work properly. So I myself, Chair, was unaware of it until Brian brought it to my attention. And basically what I'm asking yourself and the council to do via or through his request, and Derry and Strabane, they're lighting up their buildings light blue or a blue colour for most of the week. Now, I don't expect that, but I was wondering if the council had proposed if we could light up our buildings in this awareness campaign to help others and educate us maybe more on it. And that would be just a proposal, Chair. If you are agreeable, and indeed the members, I'd appreciate it on my behalf and indeed his. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mary. And I did respond and say that we take it to council. Councillor Smith, is it in on this proposal?
Yeah, it's just I was contacted by a medical practitioner who told me this was coming forward, and I would be, if it requires a seconder, Chair, I'd be more than prepared to be
Okay, thank you.
second.
So all in favour? I'm taking it's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing that, Councillor Garrity. The second item of business is Councillor Irvine, please.
Chair, thank you very much indeed for letting me in. I believe this is a request that has come to me, but it has come to other councillors and is something similar to what Councillor Garrity has been proposing. Miss Purdy lost her mother last year to COVID-19, and she lives in the Antrim and Newton Abbey area. She apparently is writing round to all councils, all 11 councils, to see if they would light up their civic buildings to mark the first anniversary of this pandemic actually hitting not only Northern Ireland, but worldwide. Her mother was the 4th victim to be recorded in Northern Ireland to have lost her life to the pandemic. And her request is simple. It's already been, I think, granted by Belfast City Council and I believe Derry City and Strabane. And that's to light up a civic building on the 23rd of March of this month in the colour yellow. And that would be my proposal.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Warrington, do you wish to second?
Yes, I do, Chair, and I just want to say a great thing going forward. We've all been affected so much by COVID with shielding and with isolation, with everything else. So I certainly second that proposal. Thank you.
And Councillor McCann, have you a comment?
Yeah, just briefly, Chair, yeah, I think that if this helps in some way to any grieving family out there who's been bereaved through COVID, it's a worthwhile exercise, so I'm happy to support that proposal.
And we will also, I think, be putting it on the council website through social media to mark that event and that anniversary. And Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Well, I want to just put it on record that I and my party are in support of the two proposals which have been made to light up our council buildings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I take it that's unanimous approval for both those proposals from all members. Thank you, members. The third item is with Councillor Baird, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I recently read a report which was headed "New Civil Service Hubs will offer staff the chance to work closer to home." What it says, 10 new remote working hubs are to be established in town centres across Northern Ireland to allow civil service staff the chance to work from closer to home. These e-hubs, which are referred to as Connect 2 hubs, will provide similar facilities to main offices but closer to workers' homes, are seen as a way to combine working from home with the traditional office experience, particularly for those who are based outside cities. Now, the plan has been announced by Finance Minister Conor Murphy, and it will seek to utilise existing public buildings rather than embark on a new build. And the first Connect 2 hubs are expected to open this year in Ballykelly and Downpatrick. There are plans for additional hubs in Ballymena, Craigavon, Omagh and the Antrim Newton Abbey area next year, and projects in Londonderry, Enniskillen, Newry and the Bangor Newton Ards area planned for 2023. Now, a very laudable project, but I would have thought it would have been better to try, if nothing else, to cut down on the carbon footprint, to start at those locations further away from the centre where people have most distance to journey. So what I'm proposing is that this council researches suitable locations for that, both in Omagh, if that hasn't already been done, and certainly Enniskillen, which is on the end of the list, but for the most furthest point away from Belfast. Could I suggest the Intech Centre, the Clinton Centre, and maybe the Old Tech, the Southwest College locations? And further to that when we have the research done, to write to the Finance Minister and the head of the civil service with a view to ratcheting, first of all, Enniskillen up, and if I can ratchet Omagh as well up into the current year, that would be ideal. And that would be my proposal, and I would ask for someone to second that.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor McCann, do you wish to second that, or just are you in from before?
Sorry, Chair, my hand's still up. Apologise.
Okay. That's okay. Councillor Coffey, you're next.
Yeah, surprise. I'm going to want to second that. I think it's a good proposal, and I think that we want to see, I think there's particularly strong case for outlying areas, most peripheral areas, that have these sort of facilities to encourage people to work closer to home, certainly to reduce not just the strain on the environment, but the strain on the individuals concerned. As someone who spends too many days on the road to Belfast and back, it certainly becomes quite a challenge on you personally. And I think that we can use personnel a lot better if we enable them to work closer to home. So I definitely think, considering the sheer number of empty buildings, this is something that should be prioritized. I think it's almost a no-brainer economically, I'm sure. And if it is done, obviously, in conjunction with the unions, which I'm sure would facilitate anything that would enable their members to work closer from home.
Okay,
I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Baird, for bringing it to our attention. I'm going to invite the Chief Executive to contribute as well.
Thank you, Chair. It's just really a suggestion, if Councillor Baird was content, that maybe if we could, as an initial step, write to the Minister welcoming the announcement. I'm very mindful this council is the only district that has 2 locations identified, and just as Councillor Baird has indicated, that we would work proactively with the department to bring this to fruition, and if possible to advance the timescale available. And we could certainly progress the research, but I think it would be useful to get a welcome to this intent, and then we could do the research and obviously continue to have engagement with the relevant departments, Chair.
Thank you for that, Alison. Happy with that, Councillor Baird? I think he's gone off. Councillor Baird.
Apologies.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, happy enough with that. But as I say, just with a caveat that sometimes when you present politicians and civil servants with answers rather than problems, and the answer being the location where you set it up, it could ratchet it up. But happy enough to take the Chief Executive's advice. Thank you.
We've had it proposed and seconded. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Is everybody in agreement? So that's unanimous. Thank you, members. The final AOB is from Councillor Feely, Anthony Feely.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Diane, for letting me bring this in at short notice. I really appreciate it. Like it's to do with Bralla School, and myself and all the people living in this area and community was disappointed, frustrated, and shocked at the Minister of Education's announcement yesterday to close St Mary's School, Bralla. And I'm not going to go into the whole details tonight because, as you all know, I've been always on about it since I was elected. But any time that Bralla went up for proposed to close, I think about 4 or 5 times in the last 10 years. And Minister O'Dowd a few 5 or 6 years ago did bring the cross-border options up, and the CCMS never even looked into it. It was a paper exercise just to get it. All that was in the head was to get it closed, and we've came to the day now where it is closed. And as I said before, I'm not going into the whole details, but expecting children to travel a round trip about 50 miles a day to get to school, leaving a perfectly good school, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to make a proposal here tonight, and I hope it's okay. I've just lost it. I had a few things jotted down, and I've just lost it now. Sorry, Diana.
That's okay. That's okay.
I propose that as a council. I propose that as a council, we urgently write to the Minister of Education and ask him, on behalf of the children and families of Erne West and Erne North, who have come up with credible and sustainable options to attend the school, to reverse this decision. The timing of this decision in the middle of a pandemic, which is nothing else, has shown us all that maybe herding children onto packed school buses to travel in many cases for over an hour to crowded schools isn't the thing to be done. And we must show them the benefits of the rural schooling must be clear for us all to see. So I just want to make that a proposal, Diana. And I think just in the middle of a pandemic, to call this was just totally irresponsible. I think that the integrated way would have been the way to go. It would have just brought all our people together and just give it a shot, right, to see how it would have went. So I'm just totally disappointed with it. And as you can know, I'm kind of very upset about the whole thing. So because I have kids at the school myself, and I have a boy that is in first year in it now, and it's going to be a big handling for him to move and everything. Like, so I'm just very annoyed about it. So I just want to make that proposal, and I thank you for letting me bring it in, Diane.
And that's the experience from a parent as well as a councillor. Thank you. And Councillor Curry to speak. Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you, Diana. Yes, I'd just like to formally second that proposal from Collier Feely there. This came again yesterday. It was a huge blow, another huge blow to a rural community on the same day that we also heard about further bank closures across Ireland and really hitting rural communities hard. Collier Feely has put it across well there. In the middle of a pandemic, it really is breathtaking. This has been hanging over the school, but to make this decision now, when we can all see that maybe sending children to big overcrowded schools on overcrowded buses maybe really isn't the way to go. And I think one of the other councillors said earlier that something good can come out of something bad, and I think this COVID pandemic has really illustrated that maybe we just need to think a bit more about how we do things in the future, and if that means changing the way we do things, then we should do that. It's more than a school, it's a community, and one more thing to be lost from the rural community around Beleek and Garrison and Derrygonley, and the children and the families will feel that very hard. And I just think It's awful to think of putting an 11-year-old child on a school bus in the morning, travelling over an hour up the road to Enniskillen, and the same again in the evening, and by the time they've stopped everywhere on the way. You know, what kind of life does that leave them in the evenings? How that disadvantages them, how that impacts on their families. I think it's a wrong decision, it's a bad decision, and I think we should be doing everything we can just to ask the Minister to really rethink the decision he's made.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Curry. That's seconded. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said by the previous two councillors. I believe that, again, rural communities are under severe attack. I will point to the Bank of Ireland's decision to close the Lisnaskea branch. Lisnaskea, I'll remind people, second largest town in County Fermanagh. It's now lost the old Northern Bank. It has lost its losing Bank of Ireland now. And Brala School, another attack on rural communities. I would just like to also propose, if possible, that we would ask for an urgent meeting, if possible, with representatives of Bank of Ireland to put these questions to them. This branch is a very, very profitable branch, but it's leaving the rural communities, small businesses in an awful bad way around the Lisnaskea and Erne East areas. And just to say that the proposal that I made 8 or 9 months ago about setting up a rural inequalities subcommittee, these type of things would have been ideal for them, and I'm just very disappointed that 9 months after the proposal, we're still waiting for that subcommittee to be set up.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Green. Members, we are. I just have a declaration of interest there from one of our directors, Celine, with a member of family employed by BOI. Members, we are now approaching 10 o'clock, so I'm just going to take a proposal to extend the meeting by 30 minutes. Could I have a proposal, please? And that's Councillor McCann. Is there a seconder, please?
Second that, Diana.
Thank you, Councillor Swift. So we're going to extend the meeting now, extend our standing orders. It's now past 10 o'clock. So your points are noted there, Councillor Green. And Councillor Swift, you're the next speaker.
Yes, if seconding is needed for Councillor Green's on the Bank of Ireland, I'm willing to do that. Okay. And I have heard all of the comments made, and I think Councillor Feely's proposal on just writing to the Minister, I would need to be going one step further. I'm demanding that we as an elected body representing the area of St Mary's Brala need and demand an urgent meeting with that Minister for his outrageous, preposterous and wholly discriminatory decision on so many complex levels, some of the issues of which already have been outlined, where we need to thrash it out with him. The rural schools are without a doubt the hub of our communities, and this closure would leave such a massive gap, not alone for the educational attainment of all of the students in that area, but the service level agreements that have already been signed up to, the employment of the teachers and all the ancillary staff in that area, and the good positive knock-on economic impact that a school has in that area. Now, we're all more than aware that the policy for sustainable schools is not a new one, and it has been the Education Department's framework for assessing the viability of any schools in the long term. And we have had successive bad decisions year after year after year, and it has caused such great anxiety, angst, and indeed serious trepidation for all of the people who've been involved. And at this point, I would like to highly commend that very proactive campaign group, and I've been working on this issue for many years myself, and all of the students who came out and obtained petitions to save their rural school, and all of the people who gave voice and attended many meetings all over the years. Without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, the vested interests and all of those people who have attended all over the years is enough said that we want to ensure St Mary's Brala is saved and sustained and stop this notion of closure of that school. So to that end, I ask that we urgently invite the Minister to come before us and hear the case fair and square and level and clearly from all of those of us who are elected to that area and all of the rest of our colleagues who are interested in saving our rural schools.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Swift. And do we have a seconder for that, please?
Yeah, I'll second it, Anthony.
Councillor Feely. So I'll just recap on the proposals we have and ask for the responses. With proposer and second, proposed by Councillor Feely, seconded by Councillor Curry, the Council Wright, and asks on behalf of children and families to reverse the decision, the Minister to reverse the decision. And everybody agreed on that? That's unanimously agreed?
Chair, Alec here, sorry for butting in. I would have to declare an interest as chair of a controlled post-primary school.
That's okay, we'll note your interest, thank you.
I would just make a comment that maybe Councillor Feely considers whether or not he has an interest as a declared parent of the school. It's his choice, as we know, and I'm not trying to undermine him in that.
Thank you, Councillor Baird. The second proposal is by Councillor Curry and seconded by Councillor Swift to seek an urgent meeting, Councillor Green and Councillor Swift to seek an urgent meeting with the representatives of Bank of Ireland to discuss put questions to them. The third, everybody agreed on that? That's no dissent to that. And then the third proposal is again by Councillor Swift, seconded by Councillor McCann. Councillor Feely, I'm sorry, yes, that an urgent meeting with the Minister, Peter Ware, to discuss St Mary's and demand a meeting with him. So those are the three proposals that have been proposed and seconded. Again, all in agreement? Okay, thank you.
As I say, my declaration of interest refers to 1 and 3.
That's noted. Thank you. 1 and 3. Thank you. Now, the next speaker I'm bringing is Councillor Coffey. And Councillor Green. And first of all, if I could ask Councillor Green to remove his hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I was just going to come in on what Councillor Swift has said, and as someone who's everyone knows that this campaign's been going on for a long time. It is a bitterly disappointing result, but it's not the first time that the parents, community in that area and children have been kicked in the teeth by Stormont. But the reality is that this has been on the cards for quite a time. And I think it's absolutely vital that we actually do exactly what Councillor Swift does, which stated. Councillor Swift there actually said it. We should not be accepting.
Green, sorry for cutting across you, Councillor Coffey. Sure. I think Councillor Green still has his microphone on. If you just ensure everybody is in mute to allow Councillor Coffey to speak, thank you. Now you can continue, Councillor Coffey. Thanks.
Anyway, I think it's vital that we don't accept this decision. We need to retain education in rural settings. It's inhumane, frankly, put children on a bus for that long every day, especially, I think Councillor Curry made a very good point in the context of COVID. This is completely unacceptable. But I have to say, I was reading the Programme for Government Outcomes Framework, and it is very clear that all the parties in Stormont have accepted that there's an attempt to address resourcing pressures, taking a strategic approach to area planning. And the way I read that is that the strategic approach to area planning is closing schools under pressure of reduced budgets. And that's what's happening. Our schools are being closed because the funding to them is being cut. That's what's driving all of this.
and rural communities in this area, even the urban communities in our towns and villages are going to be affected by this. Places like Enniskillen, where all the pupils now will have to come into the town centre increasingly. You know, that's going to have an impact on traffic volumes and so many other things. Nobody is really thinking about the consequences to our community, what it does to force everyone to go to the one type of education. And I think I will totally support the campaign group and those councillors who will fight this, because it needs to be fought. It needs to be overturned. This is not acceptable. We can't have our villages dying. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I have 7 speakers wishing to speak. Everybody's entitled to speak. So can you make your points succinct? Members, please. Thank you. Councillor Warrington next.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I certainly want to come in on the fact that the Bank of Ireland in Lisnaskea, which Councillor Green has already pointed out, is a very, very busy bank, and it will have a detrimental effect.
Yeah, well, the debate is on Brala at the moment.
Okay,
Councillor
well,
Warrington,
that's okay. Well,
and we
the
will
schools,
note. We will note your yes.
Was included in it. But we want to certainly going on to the schools, and like, this is nothing new for certainly us councillors in Erin East that's on here tonight. We had the closure of Lisnaskea High School, and certainly there was a lot shorter notice given on it than there was on some of the other schools. Obviously, Rosslea lost St Eugene's secondary school, and there's been other schools muted. Unfortunately, education is so important to all our children, and we would love to see all the schools remain open. But unfortunately, I don't know how much we as a council, we can scream and shout, but I don't know how much we can get out of it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor O'Reilly next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Somebody who has been involved in trying to ensure that there is school provision outside, and particularly good quality post-primary school provision outside of Enniskillen for many years. I think this is a very retrograde step. I think that we have certainly a massive disservice being done onto the local population, particularly the students that are going to have to be bused into other schools. And when we look at a very good rural school being closed here, and the amount of travel that is going to be involved when we're talking about climate, and we're talking about the mental health and well-being of children, all of these factors I can't believe have been taken into account when this decision is being made. And certainly it does back of money and balancing up budget, as opposed to taking the needs of the local population and children into consideration. But I think, Chair, that this is only but one of many, as other people have said, services being stripped out of rural areas. And I think that we are seeing rural areas being turned into dormant areas where people come and sleep, as opposed to being able to avail of the services that they need on a day-to-day basis. And reference has been made to the Bank of Ireland in Lisnaskea. And I think that we do need to be able, as a council here, stand up and very much advocate on the reversing of these decisions, but also to be able to have a strong voice in the protection of our rural way of life. And certainly, Chair, I'm proposing here tonight that we don't wait to the AGM in June to put together the rural committee that has been asked for many months ago. And I propose that we do this here and now tonight, because I believe the need is so great that if we wait another 3 months, we will see many other things that could have been fought for and could have been advocated for by a committee dedicated to rural proofing such as this. It is going to be too late, and certainly Chair, is why I'm proposing we do this tonight.
Okay, and is there, thank you for that proposal. Do we have a seconder for the formation of a rural committee?
Yeah, I'll second.
No, I heard a lot of voices there. I think it was Councillor Feely. Councillor Feely, did you second that?
No, I think it was Seamus. Seamus was in this
sorry.
just before me, Councillor
Councillor Green. Yeah, Councillor Green. And all agreed? Okay, members, we'll take it that that has been agreed, the formation of a rural committee. Moving on now to Councillor Coyle, please.
Thanks,
John
Chair.
Coyle.
Sorry, I've had internet issues here at home, so I'm just on the phone. But I concur with previous speakers around Brala. I fully support Bernice's proposal to have a meeting with Peter Weir. It is disgusting. I fully stand with pupils, parents and the Parents' Council and our community here in West Fermanagh. It is despicable in a pandemic that this decision has been made. The overwhelming responses sent to the Education Department of Education around the proposal to transform into integrated. I know the community has got behind it and put in representations, and we're fully support of the transformation. But I lay the blame at CCMS as well. They have a lot to answer for in our area. Never engaging, with the school itself, putting threat of closure on to where putting doubt into parents' minds, saying, well, I can't send my child, they may not obtain their full education, which then reduces the numbers. And plus the policy, sustainable schools policy, is another detrimental policy to rural schools, because they don't have the numbers, but they are penalised at every opportunity. And I, for one, will always be standing on the side of pupils, because the outcomes have been excellent for students in our area, and I want it to be there into the future.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Coyle. The remaining 5 speakers, if we can keep it very, very brief. Remaining 4 speakers. Councillor McPhillips next, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll be very brief. Again, I'm fully in support of all the comments regarding Brala School, but it's just on the side issue of Councillor Green. If you would allow me just to add my support for his proposal.
Thank you. I understand you have support, but we are talking about Brala School here. That is
I was just
AOB.
add my support that this meeting is very much required and it's needed as soon as possible. So just to add that to the.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Councillor Keenan, you're next.
Thank you, Diana. Yeah. With regards to the closing of the school, and there does seem to be a reoccurring theme to tonight's meeting with the closure of services, whether it be the closure of Brala School, the underfunding of the Western Trust, students being burdened with debt, and the bank in Lisnaskea, road projects not being completed. So I would actually like to make a proposal, and that would be for this council to write to the leaders of the parties in Stormont, ask their ministers to desist from implementing neoliberal policies which are totally decimating our communities right across the north. So that would be my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we a seconder for that, please?
Happy to second that one,
That's
Chair.
Councillor McAleer. And is all agreed? I take it that that's all agreed. That's proposed by Councillor Keenan, seconded by Councillor McAleer. Thank you. That letter would be written. Thank you. To desist from imposing neoliberal policies. And the next person to speak is Councillor Gannon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I, like many of the other councillors here, are incredibly disappointed to see the decision being taken by Peter Weir. St Mary's is, as been said, an excellent school, achieves excellent results, and has delivered for rural area of Garrison, Balleek, and further afield for decades. And like so many others, I stand with the community, the families, and the students who have faced what is an ongoing attack on schools, and it kind of links into the back issue, as being said, an ongoing attack on rural life and rural living that we have highlighted in this council before. And this is all happening in the midst of a pandemic where children and families are already going through massive stresses. And I have been inundated with phone calls from parents of distraught children who are so worried about what is happening, that this is coming at this time of all times. It's just no regard for people's mental health or well-being at this time. And even on that, this is on the eve of choices for secondary schools that this decision has been made. It was made on nearly the same day. You know, parents are choosing their secondary schools, and this decision has been made, even though parents are still entitled to choose St Mary's Brala as a first choice at the minute. This decision has been made, and they haven't set in stone their actual date yet. So parents can still indicate St Mary's Brala as their first choice, and it's clear that the timing of this decision is a direct attempt to reduce numbers of people applying, because due to the massive effort of the Parents Action Group and the community who have really got behind the school, there look like being a bigger intake and a larger intake. And I would urge any parent who's considering the school or was considering the school to still put it as their first choice on their forms. And the last thing I will say, Chair, is actually two last points. Is there's been a narrative of trying to have no good news about the school. We saw that Piece 4 funding basically being blocked by CCMS and Department of Education, and even though it was no skin off their back if that money went in, and now that money will just be wasted, which is so sad and disappointing. And the proposal for integrated education, St Mary's could have been a case study for how to do this in a rural area. It could have been a beacon for how to do this, Chair. And the community made massive effort to respond to this. And I know myself and Councillors Coyle and Feely and others helped with trying to get that massive response. And what should have been done, and the decision the Minister should have been taking, is that he should have been saying the school should be allowed to be integrated and should have secured the school's future for a period of, say, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and been given that time to give this the opportunity to work, because this could have been a brilliant opportunity for a rural area and a rural school, but it sadly looks like the Minister is intent on taking it away. Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Points very well made. Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I suppose the old saying goes, never let a good crisis go to waste, and we've seen that time and again, especially in the rural area that we're living in. It's been referenced there, the Bank of Ireland closures, I think 15 in the north and over 100 across the island. The bank cutting and running to preserve their own profits.
We're talking about Brala School. It's Brala School we're debating at the moment under AOB.
I'll get back
Thank
to
you.
that now. Just it was one sentence there, but despite the taxpayer bailouts, they're cutting and running. The attack on rural services and rural areas. Indeed, my own primary school was closed in August 2010, and it's been really a decade plus of cuts from the Tory government, from Westminster, but being implemented by the parties at Stormont. And I think, you know, we can't leave them out of the blame when we're actually looking at this. So I'm happy to support the call by Councillor Keenan. And just as one of the few, I suppose, Tyrone councillors that's speaking on this, I'd like to send my support from rural mid-Tyrone for the people of the area and to help them in any way we can to defend the services in the local area.
Okay, that's noted. Thank you, Councillor McAleer. And the final speaker on a very involved conversation is our debate is Councillor McCann. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just getting my hand up in relation to, just while we're still on this item, if I can just formally record my dissent to Councillor Keenan's proposal. I don't accept for one moment that the executive is operating to a neoliberal agenda, so I want my dissent recorded in that proposal. Chair.
That'll be recorded. Thank you very much. Councillor Keenan, you have been in before. I'm at this stage closing the debate. We have had a very, very productive meeting. Thank all members for their input and engagement this evening. And just at that point, we're going to close the meeting to thank you all indeed for being here and for the contribution you've made. I think the motions have all been very well received. So just want to thank you all and say good night. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good night.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you.